Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Halloween episode of our Anime Anticlimax. So today we're going to be covering an interesting one, but this time it's Brittany's pick as to what we are covering this month. So tell us about what we're doing today.
Well, today we are watching a lovely little piece called Psychopaths. It was brought out in 2012, 2013 as an anime first. So this was an anime original, and then spread on from there. So that is basically what is called a pure anime. So this kind of inspired 4 seasons, I think. I've heard there's a 4th season. There are 3 seasons at least, only 2 in America, and a movie, which I will say the movie's not that great. But we are only going to talk about season 1 today, so let's go around basically and hear first thoughts from people. And I will start with, let's start with Septum Sin and work our way that way.
Yep, and of course, spoilers for those of you who have not seen the whole thing. We are going to spoil the end. So just as a heads up on that. But this is my first time watching it, but definitely not my first intro to it because I played a little bit of the video game on Vita. And I was very interested in the concept. It just I had then purchased the first, second season and the movie on a sale, probably a Rightstuf sale. And then, like anything else, it hit my backlog. And you know how it is with backlogs. They hit there and then never get to it, typically.
Never to be heard from again.
So I was glad to actually.
You buy it and you shelve it. That's basically what happens.
Hey, it was looking nice on the shelf, but I took it down to do this, and I was really pleased. I enjoyed this one. I got the chance to see the second season and the movie. The movie was okay, and the second season is nowhere near as bad as people make it out to be, in my opinion. I think it just works. It was just expectations were in the wrong place at the wrong
There's
time.
one character that makes me hate second season and the movie.
She gets.
She has very little experience in the second movie or in the movie.
But as far as like the first season, excellent. I really enjoyed it. The only thing I have issue with is that I would definitely not recommend this for people who are not having good mental health days because it will definitely make your mental health a little bit worse as you go through. It has.
Well, Jacob.
Well, this was definitely a first watch for me. It's not at all a show that was off my radar. In fact, a lot of people have talked about this. It got pretty darn good ratings when it first came out. So I was very intrigued. I was wary. It had been described as a very graphic series, which honestly, it's got graphic moments, but you know. And the other thing was I had heard that it went right off a cliff with the second season, which I think the main reason is that the series writer, Galore apparently did not return for the second season. And a lot of people felt that the second writer just did not get the series. Of course, he is the one who brought us Fate Zero and the Puella series. So I've seen Puella and I've read the manga based on it, and yeah, that definitely gets into. If I had realized there was a Puella connection sooner, I probably would have made more effort. But I will say that I like a good procedural. I'm hit or miss on sci-fi, and I know this one borrows heavily from Blade Runner and other Philip K. Dick stuff, which
No,
I
it's not like they
was
actually
never a
mentioned
big
it.
Blade Runner fan. But I know it also borrows heavily from Ghost in the Shell SAC, which I loved. And the one that really hit my mind was Minority Report. I really was thinking Minority Report all the way through. And so there were some touchstones that I knew that it got for me. I would say I was forced to watch it in English dub because I don't own a copy, and that was the one that was made available to me. It's a serviceable dub. I felt like the delivery was way too wooden of most of the dialogue, but it was still a serviceable dub. The show overall seemed really good. I liked the visuals, and I do have to say one last thing before I hand it off is that the primary villain, Shogo Makishima, is probably one of the best villains I've seen in a long time. I loved him as a villain. There's a scene at the midpoint of the series that was just a great scene, and I look forward to talking about that.
Actually, it was the movie I was thinking of with what you were talking was Minority Report.
Yeah, that was
which
one.
is
Yes,
yeah,
it was
that was a
Minority
very
Report.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, I'm going to go on to Dave. I'll come back to myself at the end here.
Alrighty. Well, this was my first time viewing this. I had never heard of it before this. And I was impressed with it. I loved the villain, especially during that one scene that I think that Jake was talking about. There is some masterpiece to that. And I do like the whole concept of that, use a monster to hunt down the monster type of scenario. I was getting some Elven Lied like vibes from this, to be honest, just a little bit. But I was intrigued by the punk rocker section of the anime, and I just like the overall characters, at least with the civil representatives of the detective agency that's involved with the story. I think that some of the main characters definitely connect with each other, especially on a human level. Even though you see that their characters are kind of wooden in a way, but overall I did enjoy the series. And I will continue to watch the rest of it since I wasn't able to watch all of it. So,
So you're probably going to get a spoiler at the very end here, a bit, since you haven't seen the last bit.
Even if you tell it to me, it won't spoil it for me because I'm just that way. I'm not as butthurt as most people can get.
All right. I'll go down to Susan. You'd be the next one.
And by the way, Susan, kill switch is on.
Oh, yeah, yes.
No. Now, honestly, I remember my son talking about it like a couple of years ago, and like back then it was. I think I watched like the first episode, and I kind of got a bit squicked out because of the gore. So that first episode of the bodies just going plow, and after that, I just said, "Not. That's enough for me." I didn't really get into it. After sitting down and having a chance now to sit down and actually watch it, and me and Nathaniel binge watched the second half of season 1 today. It was actually really good. It had a lot of philosophical thoughts and ideas in there. But it had a lot. It made me think. This what I call bubblegum anime, that doesn't make you think. That you just watch to have a good time. This anime, it made me think.
If you're just watching this one to have a good time, there's some problems.
It reminded me a little bit of. It had some. How do I put it? Criminal Minds vibes.
Okay, yeah.
A touch of Cowboy Bebop, but I think that's just because of the art direction, and Kogami reminded me a little bit of Spike.
Yeah.
Kogami.
Yeah.
Reminded me just a little bit of Spike. I'm like, oh my god, it's Spike's ancestor. And as Nathaniel pointed out to me on the wiki, the whole civil system thing started out because of a plague in the year 2020.
Ooh, yeah.
And it also kind of almost looks like the Facebook logo these days.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel any better, it's like a hair away from that Facebook logo these days.
Isn't that lovely?
You know, though, I could see the head of Facebook being a part of Sybil.
We'll have to explain what Sybil is towards the end. But Roger?
Well, actually, I'm an old hand with Psychopaths. I've seen it about 4 or 5 times. Seen it before it came out and availability. It's basically a dystopia based on something from Orwell's 1984 or Huxley's Brave New World. Everybody's spying on everybody else. Your moods are always being monitored. Your thoughts are being trying to be analyzed and being. It's a show that's within a show within a enigma. It's on one part it could be a detective show. On another part it could be something internal. It can get a lot. Also, can get a lot from all the pretty cool violence you get out of it because there's people getting blown up and eviscerated and all that kind of cool thing. There are two 3 seasons with one movie. I did like the second season. Maybe not quite as much as the first season because the animation changed a bit, but it was a good story too. I really did communicate. Thought really close with Connie, and I keep on forgetting the main hit guys, Kagami or something. I think his name is.
Kogami and Akane are the main characters.
Yeah. I guess I have issues with remembering names, but I do remember this anime being really good. I think it's another kind of a thinking man's Sword Art Online. It's really well done. I don't really see much way with weakness in it. The animation is well done. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm really glad that Imbria definitely gave us a good anime to think about. So thank you. Yeah, can't help but watch the whole thing again and again.
Yeah. All right. And my experience, I'm also an old hat at this. This is about my 3rd time watching this. I got into this when it first came out, and what drew me in was it was a mixture of Philip K. Dick, who wrote the Marathon Man, all those kind of things, Electric People Dream of Sheep, which they reference actually in the anime, and film noir. So, I mean, you have a little bit of that dark film noir. It even starts out in a very film noir moment where you have Kagami and Makishima meeting officially for the first time, which is actually towards the end point of the anime. Well, 3rd act of the anime. And you have that moment at the very beginning. So you have that film noir moment that these two are going to conflict and meet each other. And so that's one of the things I really loved about this anime. And yeah, the art style is great. And I do think a lot of influence came from Ghost in the Shell, a lot of Blade Runner, Marathon Man type films, the sci-fi films of the 90s, the gritty worlds. A little bit of Cowboy Bebop, not much, but I definitely see Makishima as the Vicious of
Yeah.
the story, because
That was
Vicious
the
is
biggest-
also a great villain.
That was the
And,
biggest thing where I agreed with Susan, was the whole Kogami Makishima connection did feel a little bit like Spike and Vicious.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. You gotta admit, the villain, I totally agree. The villain there, beautiful. Beautiful use of connecting all of the arcs, little story arcs together.
and like I said, it was an anime first. The manga came out a month after because they saw, damn, this is actually a good series. Let's start making a manga of this.
Merchandise.
Then they started it's a weird way. They don't usually, it's the opposite way. You put the light novel or the manga first, and then you do an anime. But this was IG's, the first season only was the only anime only season.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I kind of was like, if we're gonna watch it, watch the first season, because that is where you're getting pure director. The director is directing this thing from script. He wants to tell this story. So it's not like, okay, I have to follow somebody else's creation. So we're getting it in pure and raw form. And that's one of the reasons why I love this anime, and it is part of me. It's the part that loves the dark anime in one sense, but I like the cutesy anime in the others. And there were some cutesy moments too. The fact that Akane has this wonderful hologram butler thing in her room, and it kind of personas into the VTuber-esque episode.
The jellyfish.
Yeah, the jellyfish-like character, and even the drones for the police, they put on the holograms that are the stupid-looking cutesy creatures.
Yeah, I gotta keep
everybody always shoots the head, and no one hits the target.
Another series that.
I have to admit, that holographic art concept was awesome, especially when, you could change your outfit, or you change your whole room.
You can change your look.
Everything. That was like, I want that.
And Fractal did a good job with that too, also, which is one that many people don't think of, but that one where everybody was an avatar, nobody was in the real world.
Absolutely, and I mean, this series, what creeps me out is it touches on a lot of present day issues. So it kind of hit on issues, and it was a good sci-fi in the sense that it brought the real world into what it was predicting. And one of the things was the VTuber type episodes where we're learning about them hiding these personas, and as someone who uses a persona, I use a VTuber at times. I used it earlier today. I tried to start the stream with it. Didn't work though. But it's something there. You've also got the fear of people sort of isolating each other due to what people think. It's the sort of start of cancel culture,
right?
And it all sort of feels and comes alive through this anime, and so this anime becomes more relevant as time passes.
Well, I was getting the feeling that it was more current,
especially with the Big Brother aspect of it. Everybody's spying on everybody else now, so you have to watch our words and all monitored. So it kind of gives you that creepoid, small world kind of look. Everybody's analyzed in precise manners.
Well, also the central conflict, really, the central theme, as I saw it, of the importance of free will versus genuine happiness versus the importance of free will versus government control in maintaining an ordered society. Definitely,
it goes to Ben Franklin saying, "Do you want security or do you want freedom?"
Right.
And the more security you get, the less freedom you get.
Yeah,
well,
you're going to have both at the same extreme at the same time. There's always something given up for the other.
The basis of Sybil itself, and I love the name Sybil, which is a reference to a real individual.
Multi-personality girl from years ago.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, and if you know the background, it kind of blows the secret a little bit of the
I give you
name.
that.
But it also sounds like civil system and not
Exactly.
civil
Sybil.
system. So it's even hiding in that. I like the genuine thought, the idea of policing mental health, so that if your mental health is not perfect and calm,
You're suspect.
you're there. And if you're
If your Q is cloud.
and the better you're capable of keeping yourself together. And I don't mean faking it. It's not about like most of us do, that we're like, depressed or anxious or whatnot, and we just make it look. No, it can detect that stuff, and we'd all. I think most of us would be locked up in that universe.
Oh yeah.
Because it wasn't about political ideologies. It's about your mental health. It's about basically.
It's about how much emotion you have on that particular moment. Yeah, that's there's multiple
which
times.
is,
There's nobody that would benefit from that. The extremes on all parties would be locked away.
Which makes you wonder, if you were like extremely a happy person, how psychotic would you be?
Okay.
Happiness is all determined by your darkness. So in that
We were
case,
talking earlier about a potential future anime to do on this channel, Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei, which is a great series.
I talk about it every time. Yeah,
they're finally releasing the first season.
God bless them. Thank God.
Yes, but there is a character in that one who is psychotically optimistic. There's
that's
no
Kafka.
two ways about it. She is psychotically optimistic.
Yeah, she's
and I have a feeling she would do just fine in the civil system.
Yeah, that's Kafka. She sees everything in the positive light. So it's weird. She's absolutely completely bonkers.
The possibility exists.
Yeah, I'm all for having that on the show for sure.
When we talk about it, this kind of takes Minority Report, because you guys brought up Minority Report. This explains what Minority Report didn't. So Minority Report kind of just did this sort of mysticism, where it's three people in a bath kind of predict the future of a crime that is going to occur. And in this one, we're actually seeing, it's reading your mental status.
It's real time.
It's detecting whether or not you're going to break. And I think this is a good point to start talking a little bit of the show. I'm just going to kind of breeze through. We're not going to go through every episode, but I think going through the cases in general. But we can start with the first episode, where we are introduced to our main characters, and they have to deal with a kidnapping / rape. And it is, you get to see that not only is the person who's just snapped because his psychopath has gone crazy, he's taken a hostage. He's like, well, screw it. I'm dead.
Well,
I'm gonna take somebody with me.
He's also hyped up on drugs at the moment, so.
And so he takes this girl with him, and then through that we learn that not only can the target that they're going after be a problem, but so can the victim,
the hostage.
Right.
And that's where we really learned that how this system works is based off your mental problems. And as someone who's gone through problems, who's someone who's been mental problems myself, who's been a victim of things, your mind is not going to be right.
Right.
No, you're not.
One of the biggest comparisons with Minority Report is the fact that once the system rules against you,
you
really have little recourse. You basically submit to the system, and if you don't, then you are treated with maximum force. And it really, that one, they specifically use the term pre-crime. But it's the idea that you are punishing people for what they haven't even done yet. And this one, and yes, it was notable that one had a hostage, because you got to see, as you said, in real time, the effect of that stressful situation the system just looks at this girl and says,
Well-
look at her coefficient. She could snap at any time. And it's like,
Mhm.
it doesn't take extenuating circumstances into account.
But see, once
Sure.
and again, you gotta look at
There's no court system in this world. It just they see something and it's taken care of at the moment.
Yeah.
hey, I'm the law. But it's
That is it.
So,
They
like
have
in
a
Back to
court-
the
if you look at
Future,
it-
all lawyers are abolished.
if you look at it,
You don't need them. You don't need them. It's all been taken care of by civil.
if you look at it from their perspective,
Hmm.
the way it is it measures you on your mental health and stability,
Hmm.
which also is reflected in both of those cases. In the first case, part of his issue, and it's brought up again more solidly, is the fact that if your psychopath is not perfect, you are stuck at certain levels in the lower levels of society, which tends to frustrate people and activate their psychopath.
Yeah.
But
That's what I mean by hue.
Yeah.
Your skin is determined by your hue and how much you're colored. So yeah.
there's the other
Jason,
part.
you were gonna
of
say
it.
something?
I mean, there was.
What's up?
Also, like, take example of the one enforcer that knew from when he was 5 years old
Yeah.
that he was going to be basically a criminal.
Right.
Mhm.
And I'm like, how can you peg someone at the age of 5? But then
Yeah.
again, I also look around at the world and see some of the kids out there.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they said that it could be too late for her because of the PTSD that you can develop from something like that.
Right.
And PTSD is very difficult to recover from, and it can last for a lifetime.
Hmm.
And in their minds, someone with PTSD is just as much a criminal as some dude who's lopping off heads for kicks.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, maybe not that bad. I'd say probably somebody who is vandalizing things for kicks, maybe. In that
I don't
level.
know. Yeah, lopping off
Someone
heads
who's
kicks probably is someone who could, as you pointed out earlier, would not register on the system
Well,
because they'd
you
probably
see,
be a little
anyone
bit.
who's gone through any kind of psycho trauma could fall under this.
Past judgment.
And we'll get to those people later,
Right.
the ones that are immune. But I
Right.
definitely would like to go over that because I spotted that at the very beginning, which is the biggest flaw in their system.
Now don't forget either that psychopaths also goes in groups too. They can read in a whole area and they say, hey, there's all kinds of flakiness going over here. Let's pacify that area.
But definitely,
Way beyond the single person.
I think it'd be good to of course, you mentioned we got. Whoa, what do we got here?
Don't worry, you're still on.
Oh, just screen
I can
change.
still see.
So you of course you got the two inspectors on this case. Akane Tsunemori's the rookie and Nobuchika Genoza's the grizzled veteran, if you will, who has all the personality of
Big robot.
Cyclops on a bad day.
Gene's definitely has to take some warming too throughout the series.
Yeah, you
And
learn
And I
a
mean
little bit
throughout the
about
series, not just season 1.
you learn a little bit about what's firing him, but it's yeah, he just comes off as a dick at first, but and then the 4 enforcers in the field, like Susan already mentioned the one. What was he was
That was Kagari.
Kagari. Should say Kagari, yeah.
Kagari.
We got
Yeah.
Shinya Kogami. We got Tomomi
Masoka.
Masoka.
And also
Yayoi Kunzuka. Yeah.
And so I mean those are your 4. And I mean it's the thing with episode 1 we also learn about placement. You have 2 enforcers, which are your basically your police detectives and whatnot, or 2 inspectors, excuse me. Then 4 enforcers, and those enforcers are pretty much criminals. They were already determined to have a high psychopath, so they were put into the criminal system, and they are now made to basically go out and hunt down other criminals.
Yes. And it's all for the sake of saving the enforcers from being colored.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
And
the
as
inspectors-
as we learn that sometimes that those lines blur because we see that with a few characters.
Hmm.
Get more knowledgeable in the criminal mind. So much as your psychic influenced by it.
Yeah.
Actually,
Mhm.
Akane has come to be one of my favorite female characters in anime. Because she's got a couple of things going for her. One, I mean, she's a solid character. She knows what she believes in, but also, I just have gotten so tired of the
Helpless little girl.
sexpot booby characters being the main characters of the series.
Like
And-
Shion Karanamari.
So she
Yeah,
not
yeah,
only
She owns the boobs in the series.
she's not only capable of carrying her own weight. Yeah, she's new at first, but that's because she's new.
Yeah.
And as she gains experience, she gains knowledge and she gains wisdom. Which, as she fails, she learns from it. So she grows as a character, and she's extremely strong mentally. And like again, and she can do so and be charismatic without being tits out. Like somebody that reminded me of her was the main character in Ergo Proxy.
Yeah.
But which has been a long time. But
That's another one that has
But that's
shades
one-
of this one.
and it's sort of a Gotham
Did we lose?
look to her. Oh, he'll be back. But I do feel like in this case, I feel like they did a great job in making this character who she is. At first, I was kind of like, why is she so able to keep her psychopaths even through like the most
Right.
traumatic stuff?
I mean, she goes through a scene that would definitely give anyone PTSD, and that.
Well, they push her in the second season.
Yeah.
They push her. I mean, the idea is they continue to push her, and as far as I know, through all the media, Akane is still an inspector. So Akane never changes. Her psychopath always sort of stays clear, as they call it, and whatnot. Yes.
As a player of D&D, all I could think was she is lawful good. She is what
Yes.
I picture lawful good should be.
She has definitely tested those choices, but yes, she always goes with the good side, even if she despises it.
Even if she must disagree with Sybil, because she just says, "Well, I don't agree with you. This is the way it should be. Don't you feel follow the law?" and such like that. She's a pretty unique character in that particular place.
All right. Well, I mean, basically, yeah. The first episode we are introduced to him. Jacob went through the. Jacob and I kind of gave the list of the enforcers, and of course, Ginoza is the other inspector. Through the series, he is a hard ass. He's by the book, and he likes it no other way. At least, at the start of the series.
Inspector Wet Blanket.
Now, I do have to ask before we get further in, who saw the connection with Ginoza and one of the enforcers early?
Not the first time around.
Well, we saw early on that there was a little bit of a frayed, exposed nerve where that was, but I admit I did not go into the. I was telling him earlier, I like watching stuff and just getting into it, and I don't care if I see things coming right away. Sometimes I do, and this was one where I think before they had their heart-to-heart where it was obvious, I think I had picked up on it, but I hadn't really dwelt on trying to figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
I can say that
Yeah.
my third watch through of this, I'm like, I can easily pick it out that because they drop hint after hint through almost every episode. The more you watch it, the more you'll probably pick up on it. But yeah, I mean, two of the enforcers were former detectives.
Now
to get
that
out
I
of the
think I
way.
did pick up on.
Yeah.
That
So-
they
That
were,
was definitely early pickup.
Now
Yeah.
the relationship
one of
between
which is Kagami, and the other one is Makashima, or not Makashima.
let's
Kashima,
go.
yes.
Masaoka.
Yeah.
Sorry, they love to do the Kaga and the Masa.
Yeah.
Actually,
names.
his relationship, I did not pick up on at all until they mentioned it. I did not realize their relationship until they
I
said it.
think the biggest
The
hint,
father-son thing
was probably
was
when Ginoza spoke with the chief, and they were talking about his father. And that was a pretty big hint. But again, I didn't really necessarily.
It's more when you pick up the second time around and say, they dropped that.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
And you come to realize that one of the reasons Genoza has that rod so firmly up his ass is he's scared shitless of becoming like his father.
Well, I mean, he had his partner go, and he had his father go.
Yeah.
So I mean, he knows that will happen, and so I mean, the fact that once you know that he's seen Kagami, who was his partner, and Masaoka, who was his dad, both get into the system and get turned into criminals based off of their old ways, it freaks him out.
That's why Inspector's not supposed to be a permanent job. It's supposed to be a stepping stone to it's like, hey, you spend your time in this and you get a higher level. I mean, they even mention that. Like,
they mentioned that you're only supposed to have this job for like 10 years, and then they move you to a cushy job up higher.
Right.
Yeah, Genoza also knows that he has some issues with his psychopaths as well. It's steadily becoming, almost there, but not quite there. So he has to take special. I think he's taking drugs and taking, psychoanalysis, programs to try to get his psychopaths down below the threshold. He's right there, and he always knows. So he's always concerned about it. So he keeps his emotions under check at all times. He tries to be a robot at all times. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's one of the things, and I don't really want to go into the second season, but in the second season, we're introduced to a drug that is given to people out in the norm to help clean up the psychopaths.
Clear it out.
People are just kind of, it's a drug that's just supposed to calm you down.
Makes sense.
You can do that now.
Like Ritalin.
What was that, Susan?
You get a hint of that in the episode where you get introduced to the masks.
Yeah.
Where the guy robbed from the pharmacy shop and the armored truck that looked like it was probably medical supplies.
Yep.
The helmets.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. Well, I mean, going over the first episode, we kind of brazened over it. We do have the guy who kidnaps the woman gets blown up in the end, and the woman, Kagami almost kills her, but gets shot by Akane with paralyzer function. And the next episode is basically trying to mend that relationship. So I wanted to kind of breeze over that one before we go into their first real case.
Well, there you see, and Brandon was talking about the Akane's general strength, her willingness to stand firm on things. Like, basically, Kogami, at the very start of the series, he has become cynical and kind of, this is my role, I'm just an attack dog sort of deal. And she kind of actually helps snap him out of that. He doesn't actually hold it against her that she shot him. But she ends up paralyzing him in order to prevent the woman from being killed, and does manage to talk her down so that she can get treatment. And of course, she gets raked over the coals by Genoza. It doesn't, like, why would you do that? But it is interesting that you see, like, she is clearly the wide-eyed rookie who doesn't, who's kind of out of her depth,
and doesn't she
maybe not as much as she seems.
Doesn't she also, like, talk back to her superior and, like, tell him what's what, and he's like, oh, so that's the route you're going to take.
Apparently,
in a sense, she just kind of takes sides.
Apparently, the enforcers have a certain amount of parity with each other, so they have the ability to question and maybe do something on their own. But it seems to be because that both of them don't seem like they the Genoza gives her orders and she does it, but then times she turns around and tells him something. Hey, I think we should do this, and he goes along with it. So yeah, I think they have some sort of parity with each other.
Well, as the series goes on, and I think there was a moment later where she dressed him down and said, "Look, I'm at the same rank you are."
Mhm.
But at the beginning, she deferred to him because, anytime, unless you're a total ass, if you are brand new on the job, you're going to defer to the people who already work there, at least for the first few days. So, she mostly does do that at first.
She starts going off on her own.
Right.
It is actually kind of funny when you think about it, is the person who utilizes law and order as her mantra to stay clear is the person who is the free thinker of the two. Because really it's her partner that ends up just saying, well, I will just let the system dictate everything for me. And because of it, it leads to him messing up. At first, he looks like it works to his advantage because he's the experienced guy. But as you go on, you see that just letting the system do all the work for you is a bad decision. And he's a good illustration of that.
Indeed.
But you also get a few hints into I guess the way things were before, the way things might have been, whatever. Like Masaoka is actually a veteran of the time before Sybil, and so he's like an old school detective. He actually knows the way
how to be a detective. He knows how to be a real detective.
Yeah,
that's why he's an enforcer. He's an old gumshoe. He's seen it, played it, done it. He's not afraid of taking care of business, but now he's looked at as a possible criminal. So
he flat out says at one point that he hates that the system made him that way because his way of thinking, his way of actions was dubbed, being too close to the criminal. So the computer put him in the role.
Yeah,
right.
So he had no choice.
It's a common theme in a lot of things that to catch a criminal, you have to think like a criminal. And, in order to...
And we see that with another character later.
Absolutely. He becomes a very epitome of that.
All right. So let's actually go into the first actual case that goes through, because this series does a couple of cases. And the first case is they get called in because a drone killed a person in a factory, but they don't know why. And something happened. They don't know why, that a drone just suddenly killed a person. And it's unthinkable, unheard of that somebody could make the drone kill somebody.
Because everybody's been realized,
Here we learn that the factories and whatnot, these people don't have connections to the outside world. They have no internet, no communication. Their lives are shit. And these are people that are pretty much, even if you have a high psychopath, they're just going to move you to another position to be shit off. People can bully you and treat you like crap. But you literally are a corporate drone. In all sense of the matter. With this company.
It was their way of doing it, which they had one person. That was their weakness, is that they decided it was one person they were going to bully.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, as soon as this psychopath starts to get high here, we'll move him someplace else, and then let him get a little bit calmer, and then let them bully him there.
Yeah.
But these other people
psychopaths in a different way.
Yes.
A way of releasing their bad psychopaths on one person.
And not in a good way.
No, it's pretty shitty.
And then, well, of course, when you look at it, though, even though he was doing these horrible things to clear his psychopaths, the rest of the people there, by any objective standard, were not much better. I mean, the guy, the plant manager was...
he's an asshole, too.
Well, he was an ass.
They kept Sybil technically out of the psycho, or out of the factory.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you, if they let Sybil in,
yeah,
and so did the psychopaths, there'd be a hell of a lot more people dying.
Yeah, they have, this particular building actually had been shielded against being judged inside the building. Yeah, so they don't know what's going on in there. Nobody knows. Sybil's kind of like blind in there.
Right.
It's pretty interesting how they're
their own rudimentary measures.
Right. they ended up having to bait the guy to come to within range of their stuff.
But when you go
They literally
severely on
grab the
stress levels, of
landmines.
course it's going to go down.
I love that bit. They bring a landline on spools just to bring the
I
target
just
so they
type
can
in
shoot them.
swivel.
Bring the
yeah.
internet to them.
Yes.
That's
One thing
it was also that case that brought to my mind the idea of the criminal mind connection,
Hmm.
you know, the show to profiling the guy that was being bullied.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this actually has good police work, good detective work.
But that's one of the things is the Kogami and Masaoka are doing this wonderful profiling, and they're doing it really well. And Ginoza is just almost apoplectic with rage that they would dare use profiling in this day and age, because Sybil's supposed to do that for them. If humans do the profiling, it's bound to be flawed, and which it's true. In humans doing it, there's going to be flaws. But that was an interesting concept that profiling had become such a absolutely horrible passe thing for cops to even consider doing. Whereas, as Masaoka points out, well, obviously this guy's the culprit. He's the one that keeps moving and bullying. It's like,
And one thing I think we forgot to talk about are the actual dominators. You know,
Yeah, we actually probably didn't. We didn't. I mean, they have what is most known for, and actually is probably one of the best collectibles if you can ever get in an anime.
Oh yeah, they got
There's $1,000 kind of working models of these. They are guns
nice.
that are basically these laser detecting and forcing that transform and let out blasts on targets that they can go either paralyzing, they can go elimination, or they can go to the complete destruction mode. And complete destruction mode is where they're able to destroy, in the case of this case, they can destroy the drones with. They just basically shoot a massive hole through, and these are pistols, folks. These are not like some people.
She freeze up?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah, these guns are not like regular guns that have the ability to transform and then enforce an edict from Sybil. They have the ability to look at somebody and then gauge what their psychopath is. Then they are deemed the person that's going to be shot either as someone that can be redeemed, by being paralyzed, to be eliminated by the eliminator. And then you have machinery stuff or inanimate object stuff with the disintegrator thing. So it's a critical piece of the whole mess, because these of course I'm not going to get too deep right now, but the gun is a critical part of Psychopaths. You can't make this system work without it, apparently.
It's almost like someone took a laser gun and a highway patrol radar gun and kind of
put it all together. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
The decomposer was pretty nasty.
Very much. You get the effect of the noisy cricket from Men in Black.
I was thinking that.
Yeah. It's kind of cool how Sybil always talks through the machine and through the dominators. But aim carefully, and this is dysfunction. And meanwhile, whatever's going on, this is going to be decomposer, or this whatever it is. That's kind of cool too.
I am curious, because I don't think we've ever seen it, and I don't recall it in either one or two, of someone missing with a deadly shot.
Yeah,
missing.
It's kind of hard to say. Whatever Sybil sees, that gets rid of. Whatever, it does have. Sometimes you do see that being targeted at limbs. Somebody tries to escape and gets a limb, so it is a possibility to avoid it.
Yeah.
But sometimes in the anime, they're basically maybe escape with their lives, but not much more than that. Their limbs are gone, or their legs are gone, or something like that.
I haven't seen anybody actually survive the death shot until season 2, where several people survive it. Like, people just can't aim.
Well, the guy in the next case actually kind of survived a little bit.
The one that masks.
But this current case, being the drone case, we
Uh-huh.
learned he's able to control drones using a
Special program or something like that.
special program. We don't know who gave him the special program until, of course,
Yeah,
later.
until
When we
much
learned in
later.
Fukushima.
Yeah.
That basically, this guy's controlling it, and because of the way the building's set up, he was able to get away with it all this time.
Yeah.
He's killed 3 people in total. But yeah, I mean, it's any other thoughts about this case, which was the drone case?
It did set up more on this case, where you got to see that there was definitely outside involvement, because he himself did not have access. He didn't have the ability to do it. He had been sent, as he says, he was sent this thing. So you knew that there was somebody or a bad actor outside of it.
We get to know that there's a probable mastermind somehow, but it's kind of floated out there a little bit. But it's kind of hinted there's something else going on. There's a more intelligent person pulling strings here, making people marionettes.
Well, person at this point, we haven't quite realized that it's an ongoing thing, but you do find that out pretty quickly. I think the next one was the one with the avatars, right?
Yep. The next case, we can go on ahead and go into the next case.
I want to bring up one more thing. How difficult it was to kind of get fired from the government places.
Yeah.
Well protected.
Well, I mean, they kind of go into that a bit at the start of the next case. The next case is quote unquote the VTuber or the Avatar case that goes into things. And when they inspect this, they sort of make a comment that no one is really unemployed in these days with civil. It's just unusual.
Yeah.
But these influencers, these people are still able to sort of do what they do that they do nowadays. And the irony that this occurred in this was written and animated in 2012, 2013, and it didn't become a thing until 2016.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
It's kind of almost like a Soviet era system of where your career is picked out from you in school, and you are, or careers if you're good enough.
Well, by civil, apparently, like you'd take these aptitude examinations,
and then you'd have like either a lot of choices
or all your choices, or very little choice.
Actually, you say Soviet, but I think more like, if I remember correctly, I believe that was a big part of the premise in 1984. Was the
I'm thinking of real world aesthetics.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
It's
kind of like the ASVAB. When you go in the military, you're giving
exactly.
From wherever you get, is what you got.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I kind of remember when I was in high school, I was given this career test that said, "Hey, take this personality test, take this career test, and let's see what you can do."
Oh well,
that's
different. You're not. Those aren't the only careers you can apply for.
Right.
Those are just suggestions.
Those are examples.
This is,
what was your results, Susan? Because I'll give my results.
Oh, good Lord!
You remember?
No, because it's been ages and ages and ages.
I don't remember my results because I told them I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to do anything. And the only thing it gave me was florist. The only job it gave me was florist. And it's like, well, that sucks.
I want to point out that pensioner is a position for those that are found to not fit in society, but maintain a psychopath low enough to not be removed. So basically, even if you're deemed like, well, you really can't work a job in society, they just leave you. And these are what half of these people are. Like that first one is a pensioner that found a niche on the net.
And so, I mean, basically, this case, we have these avatars, and we start with Akane speaking to an avatar in this virtual world, and we sort of see Akane's avatar, the cute lemon candy is what she's called online. and meeting this avatar called Talisman.
Right.
And she's basically getting advice of her relationship with Kogami and her. But she's kind of, having to do it as the outside person. It's like, no, it's not me. It's this other person I know.
For a friend.
For a friend, yes.
This episode reminded me a lot of Summer Wars.
Yeah, very much.
Actually, Susan, I always thought that you would like Spooky the most.
Yeah.
I adored Spooky.
Yeah. That was very much up your alley, I thought.
This is Halloween. This is Halloween. Oh yeah, no, Spooky and
Well, being a VTuber and on part time and watching VTubers, Spooky got me thinking Iron Mouse. If you wanted a more current placement of who she is,
she's adorable.
She's adorable, but in real life, she's unfortunately critically ill. But she's hilarious. She's fun. She's got a great singing voice. But yeah, people love her. She's one of the bigger VTubers out there. And in this series, Spooky is sort of the anarchist, or that's the persona is the anarchist.
The persona of anarchy.
But apparently, she and Akane know each other from high school, and she's not so much an anarchist behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, it all depends on the. That's something I noticed a lot about this anime. Masks. Everyone is wearing their own mask. Sorry.
It's something I will bring up towards the end.
A masquerade of avatars.
And they actually do have a masquerade of avatars. Basically they're called in because they literally find out from the tenant or the landlord that there's the person who was playing Talisman has been missing for 2 months or hasn't been out of his apartment for 2 months. And they found the toilet doesn't work. And that's literally why they get called in, is the toilet didn't work.
The utilities, of course.
Yeah, the utilities.
Yeah.
And
nothing at all to do with the person missing. It was the utilities.
No, not at all the person missing. As we find out, it absolutely has to do all with the person missing because the person's flushed down the toilet.
That tends to cause trouble with the.
They didn't.
Don't flush your body parts down toilets, people. It's just that. It's just going to cause you problems.
Although, believe it or not, the people who go catch shit for a living actually do get paid good money.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
But yeah, we find out that Talisman is not who he says he is.
In fact, a different person.
Yep, it's a different person.
Who took over that avatar?
And as we learned, the killer is going about killing off avatars to take on their persona.
Perfectly.
Perfectly. And I'm amazed. I guess he's using some sort of sound voice modifier to get, because Spooky, the guy personalities I could get. Spooky, I couldn't, because Spooky is female and has a really female voice. And then he's doing it with like 3 at one time at one point. And that's like insane.
So yeah, to back up a little bit, they Akane Lemon Candy it gets catches the notice of Spooky, and they have a little tete-a-tete where they actually plan a sting operation that goes bad.
Yep, they want to do a real life meetup with Masquerade, where we learned that people can don their personal avatars in this illusion with the illusion of clothing they've got, so you can be your avatar in real life. Which is
cool.
Creepy. I don't want my VTuber to be my real person.
Apparently, they can use this because dress up technology. They can assume this holo thing.
Right. Which is a cool idea.
I mean, could you imagine some of the conventions? Artists would have be well paid. Artists
Oh yeah,
would be
oh
very
no,
well paid.
I don't doubt my job would get far better with this kind of work. But we do see there's a hacking problem because immediately this masquerade gets hacked and everybody starts looking like Talisman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's all
that causes the problem.
because the perpetrator.
Yep. And they realize, oh shit, we have somebody who is really good at hacking to deal with this problem.
Really intelligent and really good at hacking.
Yep.
But that's,
And this is where they're starting to really get that feel like, oh, maybe there's something more. And on the sidelines, this is where we're starting to learn about the history of Kagami and Makishima.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is where we're reintroduced to Makishima.
Yeah, because he actually shows himself pretty much when he's talking to the killer.
Who was Masataki Mito, right? Was the killer this time around?
No.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I did find it interesting how they portrayed it with him, because this is very much how things are today. You've got fans, these psycho fans who have this idealized version of just anybody. Could be VTubers, politicians, whatnot. And if that actual individual does not match up 100%,
they're in trouble.
Ignore it, or they get PO'd. You're not the real one. My version of blank would do that.
Yeah, I mean, and to use a great real life example is Meg Turney and Gavin Free. When Gavin Free of Achievement Hunter and Slow-Mo Guys, and Meg Turney, who was formerly of Rooster Teeth, now does cosplay, they had a psycho fan of Meg's that stalked her and broke into their house and almost tried to kill them. So, I mean, you get those obsessed fans out there.
I mean, look at Princess Diana and the paparazzi that went after her. You know, so it's like,
the interaction also of the people and the fans, and sometimes you get good groupings of fans, and sometimes you get toxic.
Yeah.
And I can vouch for that even harder. Unfortunately, in between these streams, I've had a toxic fan incident of my own. Dealing with my art work, I had somebody who got toxic, and I had to deal with them. Unfortunately, it didn't turn too bad that I'm aware of. Nothing's happened in that sense, but I mean, unfortunately, it did come to bad terms. It just happens. When you have a fandom, it's going to happen. You're going to meet those people that obsess. And their obsession, I mean, you guys talked about Chris Chan a few weeks ago. Chris Chan was someone who obsessed over their own fandom. So, I mean, you get that relationship. And, yeah, we kind of see that with Spooky's fans. Once Spooky starts to turn them against the police because of after the incident, they're hating on Spooky for it. And we start to get the pieces put together of this killer and how he went about doing what he did. But unfortunately, by that point, Spooky is dead. They had already gotten Spooky, and this is the false Spooky.
They did not take long on that.
They did
not.
Unfortunately, there are two different spectrums of fandom. There is the fan love, and then there's the other end of the force where it could turn on you in a second. You know,
that's where it comes from.
Yep.
And so, I mean, unfortunately, in that we get, I got a little confused. This is one of the things that one part in the anime that got me a little confused as to who was invading where. when they started bringing things down, the bomb, I think, was supposed to be set at Spooky's place, but it wasn't. The blender, basically, Spooky's body's put in a blender with a bomb.
I wasn't sure if that was her body or just a shit ton of tomatoes.
No, I think that was.
They were referencing. They were making like an image of it. It was just too much, I guess, to show the real deal. So you only know it's going to be a body, but they threw tomatoes. Yeah. So.
But we have a nice explosion that almost kills Ginoza and his team, while Akane and Kagami are like, no, we have a different idea. Let's follow this track. Let's track down where this guy would be and how he escapes cameras, because he's hiding through the cameras. He's finding his way around them. He's finding those blind spots. And through that, they find the guy. And it's not a pleasant interaction. The guy does get his arm blown off. And he keeps running. He's one of the few times, like we said, he just loses a limb briefly.
Yeah.
Well, he's quite a big psychotic, so his adrenaline, and his force of will is driving him forward.
And then he ultimately doesn't he like end up back at a place where he gets all these avatar love that apparently he's like built kind of an altar of orgy love from avatars.
Yeah, he has an orgy.
Talisman was not his first one.
No, his first one we learned was a
beetle.
Was Blue Beetle or something. It was a kid who was sick and had died. He didn't kill the kid, but the kid had died. But the grandfather kept getting royalties because apparently this was the first time he stole the body. Talisman was the first kill, and Spooky Boogie was the second kill. Yeah. So he didn't kill the kid. The kid died naturally. We did learn that. But yeah, he had these 3 avatars that he was kind of worshiping, and he's like, no, I don't want you tainted. You're my pure thing. And lo and behold, good old villain Makishima takes control and really
who's in charge
takes them off, torches them, and kills them off. So we get a moment where the killer or the main villain gets to kill the killer before the cops do.
Yeah, because the guy was no longer useful to Makishima. They already judged him as being no more fun. Get rid of the toy.
Yeah, I loved how he dealt with him.
That's exactly what I was thinking. This toy's boring. I'm just going to get rid of it.
Yeah,
I love how he dealt with them, turning the avatars against him. Yeah, that was just that
was his mind a lot.
Because the guy's psyche is so fragile.
Is that in the palm? Once those stool the stool legs are kicked from under him, he fell apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the thing. That's one of the things that is interesting about it, and why this is slightly different from something like 1984, is that it doesn't automatically make you say, "Oh, the government's the bad guy." Matter of fact, it goes out of its way to show you the positives and negatives of this future.
Yep.
Yeah. As so there's a little crime, but then the cause of security.
Now there was one other thing I wanted to sort of mention here that happened during this action scene where they were chasing him down. There was one cool scene where they hacked the actual vision of the building. And they made the building go all warped. And
that was
the way
amazing.
They stopped it was amusing because Masayoka brought alcohol out and started a fire.
You mean it's
and made the illusion kind of break up?
Yeah, it made the illusion break up to help them get out of this situation. So the main reason he brought the alcohol was not to drink, but to break the illusion.
Well, I like how later Connie's like, "Oh, that's the alcohol supply. Fast we can blow fire." It's like, no, that's not what.
I mean, that's something we learned in the next episode. I mean, alcohol is apparently a very luxurious, limited object.
Right.
People don't drink,
Well,
which is sad.
Didn't they say it was largely barred from the general populace in order to keep them?
Well, Cloud's a psychopath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
You gotta
Which it
keep
does.
unclouded.
Yeah, they didn't outlaw the soma though. They got rid of the alcohol.
You can smoke like hell, but you can't drink.
Right. So yeah.
Ah.
But yeah, I did like that idea of the the breathing flame. That was interesting.
But just still, the visual trippiness of it, the artisticness that went into that scene.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything
Well,
else
Taylor
anybody
makes
say on
you
this
smile.
case before we go into the next case? Because the next
Oh,
case
no.
is one of the longer and more darker cases, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
Girls.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the fun, that's the part.
Ooh,
I figured she'd be your favorite character.
she was one piece of work.
yeah.
All
It's
right,
always
so let's
seems to be
go.
the same kind of archetype. It's always the really cool beauty that's actually a monster. You know, so I just like it's one of these things. That, oh yeah, she's the guilty one for sure. She's probably
So
completely
let's go into the case of the art student who is copying a previous case from before.
I think it was her father, even, that was the original
It was her father who, the case before was called the, what was it? I got it down here, specimen killings. It was called the specimen killings. And apparently this is what killed Kagami's partner, or one of his enforcers, and drove him mad, and got him all on this case. Was this specimen killing case. The fact they never really found the guy. They never really closed the case.
Well, they found a guy.
They found a guy and blamed a guy. But he wasn't the guy.
It wasn't the guy.
But he was disappeared, and Kogami does not believe that he could have been acting alone.
True.
Which is
More
right.
and more.
Yeah.
That kind of leads into this all-girls school, which we get to see, of all people, Makishima as a teacher.
Yeah.
Amazing how it goes around.
Right off the ground, we get to see Makishima as a teacher, and we have these girls sort of panicking about something's not going on right, and we meet the popular girl of the school that everyone loves.
Yeah, the school idol or the school Madonna, I guess you would call. And she's well respected and looked upon as as a temple goddess. That's definitely. But there's more to her than just being handing out flowers.
Yeah.
She hands out death.
Yep.
She is big on people joining her.
The whole bit. Yeah.
You see, I think they should have started thinking if something was up when the art club members would join and never come back.
Disappearing. So hey, these different girls are disappearing.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
I definitely another case of where the Criminal Minds profiling came in wonderfully.
And I think this is the case that we meet the profiler. I believe this is the case where we meet the official profiler. That Kogami had a teacher, and this guy was a teacher of criminal profiling. And because of the way he taught, all the police that would train under him would get their psychopaths raised. So he's basically been banned from teaching because he would cause people to raise their psychopaths just for teaching them.
Yeah, the guy definitely knows. He knows how people's work, how people's minds work. He's definitely, you're right. He definitely was shoved in some corner of society to get him away from everybody else because whatever he talked to made people psychopaths colored and heal up.
I don't know, he might have had the better deal, living out in the country in a nice big house.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I was
like,
gonna say,
He wasn't a criminal yet. He's not a criminal yet.
yeah.
Now, in the second season, he is in a prison cell.
Yeah.
He
So-
was
Lock him up temporarily.
but that's linked to the events of the end of the first season, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But
There's another separate case, separate incident that happens near that area. But yeah, but the art thing is really keeps on going too. It has a lot of good potential.
For a minute.
Susan,
you ever
Susan
notice
stepped
that
away.
all of the like philosophizing people seem to be either they are bad guys or they're branded as bad guys?
Yeah, they're thinking outside the civil system, so of course they'll try to get rid of them. They want
Now, of
people
course,
who are nice ants who might follow the trail.
One thing that's a very dead giveaway with Rikako, though, is that she is really, 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 really into Shakespeare. But not just Shakespeare generally. She is really, really into Titus Andronicus. Susan, you look different.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, Susan looks absolutely different. Oh my god. Susan's avatar.
I've not actually read Titus Andronicus, but I am well aware that it is different from some of his other work.
It is one of the more sinister of Shakespeare's plays.
Yes.
Definitely. I mean, there are very few happy Shakespeare plays. Let's put it this way. But I mean, the Bard, unfortunately, he's good at his tragedy, and he's also good at his dark elements.
Mm-hmm.
And Titus Andronicus, which is the feature of this story, although they do speak, I believe this is where they bring up a little bit of why do the Philip K. Dick, why do sheep or do sheep dream of electric or whatever?
Electric Dream might be electric
Dreams,
dreams
yeah.
of robots or
Hero
something like
sheep,
that.
yeah. So I mean, we get a bit of that, but yeah, this is very much about Titus Andronicus through Shakespeare, and we see that she's trying to copy her father in his path, who, and to describe what her father did, he took people while they were still alive, cut them up into little pieces, and then put the body parts in resin.
A special kind of plastic stuff.
Yeah.
And then it hangs them underneath holograms.
Yeah.
Well, her
Plain
father
sight.
painted-
Your father wasn't the actual killer.
Yeah.
He was just a painter that
He
painted
painted.
disturbing artwork, but was
No, her
made
father
obsolete in
was the
future.
killer. Her father was the killer.
Wasn't the
I
killer?
think
I think there are two separate
No, I
people
did
involved
not
in
get
this.
that.
There were two separate people involved, but as we learn later, her father survives
Was the
even
killer.
his death in this scene. Her father is still alive in the series.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's been spirited away.
Yeah.
There-
The
oh,
father
okay.
we see her visiting in the hospital, that was his body. And his body dies in this point in story. But his mind carries on. And it carries on, unfortunately, in a bad place. And is part of the overall major part of the plot. But yeah,
but one thing that, again, we were talking about profiling and whatever, but that was one of the ways that they figured out that it was a different killer this time around.
No,
Yeah.
it's
The whole idea
The
that
different.
was that
The habits were different, or the procedures were different, even though the people were the same.
as they would probably say on these shows, the MO was not the same. The it
The
was
result was
to quote Kagami is there was no imagination
well that
in the art.
but also
That's how
like,
he was able to figure it.
well, also like the original killings, there was this feeling of purpose in how and where they were presented, and here it was they were basically put where they would get the most attention.
Yeah.
And there was so he was just feeling like there was no real
there was no
no imagination, definitely.
to use art terms, basically, the father had meaning behind his art. He killed politicians and put them in certain places that represents it, or in the case he killed Kogami's partner, set it up in I forget the exact situation he set it up, but it was supposed to be representative of police dogs and all that. Whereas our girl killer here, Risa, she just kills just for art. So she's not really doing it for anything more than she loves the beauty of it. And
she likes the representation of friendship and death too.
Well, I did get a feeling that she felt very much that her father was owed more
credit,
attention and love than he. So she's also doing it partly for him,
but fatherly love.
Yeah.
To a system that disowned him.
Yep. And for those who don't know, we have now joining us in place of Susan for a moment, her son, Nathan, a.k.a. Bug.
Hey.
Hi.
Long time no see, Bug. Hey, how's it going?
It's been going.
And of course, you were watching the series. What were your thoughts of the series overall, since you're here?
The way I saw it, it was a cycle of systematic violence and senseless slaughter that just repeated and repeated. A system from the top down that was all about evil, and criminality.
Okay.
It couldn't find a way to stop it. Even when it tried, it couldn't.
Okay.
That's why you need a human element to hold the dominator.
Well, we have to use air quotes, human element, as we get to the end here.
Yeah, we still have human elements. They're simply in parallel.
Yeah. There's still a human element in this situation.
They may see themselves as gods, but they are still mortals.
Yeah.
They're still fish bowls.
But back on this case, this is a three-parter, but it ends again with them not getting the killer.
No.
They think she got away, but once again, Makishima has gotten somebody else to kill for him.
Because she's no longer a fun toy to deal with.
Because she's become dull and boring.
He's a Senguji, and when we hear what her ultimate fate was, I had to cringe from it. I was like, "Ooh, boy!"
Those robotic hunting dogs are awesome.
But
you wanted a gory death, I will say this series has nothing against as far as gory deaths.
Oh no.
Oh God.
No.
Gantz kind of pain compared to this. No, the Gantz manga was more graphic than the Gantz anime, but it's a little bit. I think they're kind of. Yeah.
I will say though,
even stuff like Ninja Scroll, this has got nothing on Ninja Scroll as far as gore.
I will say though,
her death is definitely a gory one.
The stuff that Rikako was doing though was pretty
horrific.
I mean, it was
pretty horrific. Yeah,
it was presented in a way that was not as graphic and gruesome as it could have been if it was just like torn and
Yeah, because the
whole idea of what she was doing was like, ugh.
Cutting people up and preserving them in some sort of plastic stuff. Yeah. And then arranging them up in a piece of artwork that she wanted people to see. I mean, she was a psycho individual, a psycho killer.
Yeah.
So she deserved the death. Yeah.
When they find her first case, I mean, they find it hidden in a hologram fountain that's glitching. And then when they undo it, they're like, well, that's interesting. Why would anyone put this weird sculpture here? and they're like, we don't understand. What is this? And it's not until a few moments they're like, that's not a sculpture.
That's a statement. Is what it was. And got Kagami's arousal because he never let go of the case in the first place.
Nope. And so, because it had the specimen killer elements, they're like, this is connected.
And I believe
But,
this was
anything else
also.
anybody wants to say about this particular case?
And there was the other creepo, the skull tattooed man, artist person they had to talk to as well. It was some creepo that decided to make himself look like a skeleton, and
The artist, yeah,
who
the
is this
artist.
guy? I got this book of him. This is artwork.
Yeah, they had the Hannibal Lecter.
Oh
thing
yeah,
going.
yeah.
We
You
got
should have told him more of
him.
Yeah, but man, it was just
And
creepo.
you gotta wonder how he's tattooed his back and all that. And he's like,
God knows, man.
Just give him a mirror.
There's supposed to be anything in there that's supposed to be harmful other than nice, calm music and comforting lights and sounds and stuff like that.
Right. That was, if I remember correctly, that was a ward in the building that Akane had never been taken into, where it was like, it was like the incurable cases, right? Basically.
It was like all the creepos go to because they can't be re-socialized.
But I guess once you learn what you learn about Sybil, I guess it would be the ones that cannot be rehabilitated, but somehow were not considered important or valuable.
Kind of. I mean, we see this case again in the second season because this is where they put the profiler. They put him in this section where it's like, no, you cannot reform these people. They're
isolated. They're all isolated forever. So supposedly, but they are come to, and they are asked difficult questions to solve. Yeah, because they're all crazy in some manner. Other than the profiler professor guy, he seems to be a normal guy, but he's simply knows all about people.
Yeah, I mean that's why he's He's more dangerous because he will make
he's
up.
Not that man. He just knows how the criminal mind thinks. Therefore, his hue is really dark.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to bring up one thing that started in this: the theme of the fox hunt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, the theme of the fox hunt starts at in the end
of this case. It goes with the older man,
with the case of the killer. Yeah.
We get the fox hunt over for like a case or two, if I remember correctly.
Well, it carries on to the next case, which is the midpoint of the series.
Well, Senguji is another example of someone from before the system who's been around for a while. And he was actually the one who was like almost full cyborg, right? Like basically it was just his brain.
An old man that was, I think it was like over 100 years old or something like that. And he carried on, he was wealthy. So he had a mannequin man kind of like cyborg kind of body made from
that'll sort of lead us. We'll just go ahead and go on into the next case then, which is Senguji. He's had his entire almost all his body replaced, cybernetic. This is where we learn about people in the world they're cybernetic people throughout the world. That you can have limbs, you can have arms. We kind of figured the limbs because Masayoka throughout the whole time has a metal arm.
Mm-hmm.
It gets more cyberpunk.
Dave, you're mute.
Which kind of comes from the short film from Philip K. Dick's Bicentennial Man. If I remember correctly, because in the movie Bicentennial Man, the robot actually, created like part cybernetic, part human body parts. So to me, that's kind of what we're getting here.
Well, that also could be seen as a very clear nod to Ghost in the Shell, and the whole idea of the the major basically is the same sort of deal, a brain in a shell.
The major's a interesting case in all kinds of senses.
Yeah.
She changes from story to story. If just to cover briefly what Ghost in the Shell, what she is, she was a young girl that died in a plane wreck. Was put in one of the first cybernetic suits built, and has since become a badass lesbian, kick-ass.
Someone said we'll call it wizard or techno wizard. Something like that, wizard level character. Yeah.
Around this point in the series, I think we kind of didn't really mention before, I don't think, that we've met the chief a couple of times. Like
yes, we have.
Barely.
I think isn't this the part where she very pointedly starts doing everything she can to keep Kogami away from this case.
Yeah, because
Yes.
Kogami wants to eliminate that bad guy. He wants whatever his name is. He wants to
Exactly.
eliminate him, and they want his brain.
Right. Well, that really kicks up at the end of this whole story arc because, you know, when we find out what we find out about his psychopaths, she wants.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, what's his
Yeah.
name?
Yeah.
But we're going back to the cybernetics of the
Right.
or the case of the cybernetic hunter. We learned this guy he carries on a business persona. He has a sort of television interview, and he seems all nice and fine.
Mm-hmm.
Then he has an interview with Makashima, in which you see him lighting up a pipe and smoking from the bones of our previous killer.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
just you're muted, Susan, by the way.
I'm like that's super villain to the nth degree there. It's like,
Mhm.
that's like a Bond villain move.
Well, I mean,
It's kind of like a dark almost a way kind of like a dark anti-hero analyst kind of weird guy. Because he's not completely psycho. He definitely doesn't respect life. He thinks everything's a game.
I mean,
Yeah,
to take a more recent anime example, Jujutsu Kaisen has a character in it that wants to make coat racks out of people's bones.
Lovely.
So
a little bit Ed Geenish.
yes, yeah, very much. This character is a little bit also Ed Geenish.
Mhm.
If Leatherface went cybernetic instead of leather.
Yeah.
I did like the interview that he had with that reporter where he ends up like she's clearly like disgusted at the idea of him being fully cybernetic, and he ends up turning the tables on her by
Yeah.
saying like, look at all this holographic stuff you use, all this stuff, aren't you part cyborg? And she has no response to that. She's like
And it's only more disturbing because I mean at that time very little smartphones were just coming prominent at the time that this anime came out.
mhm.
And think about it these days. If we lose connection, if we lose power,
Yeah.
we're pretty fucked as a society.
Well, we're going to lose
Now.
90% of our society if power goes out.
yeah.
Because everything's material by machines and operating systems now. How
Yeah,
cool
that was me Sunday night. That was when I pulled out the old card games with the flashlights.
Right.
With a lot of society, just the fact that just the internet, that's all it takes.
Well, I mean, a great example in real life was Texas this past winter.
Oh, yeah.
When their power system went down, they had serious problems.
Yeah.
So I mean,
people are disconnected from the net. You know, people
and
don't know
that's what this guy is warning about. Is basically we're so connected, we're so into the machines
you
that
betcha.
when we have something taken away from us, we're
Then
just
we're
as
like-
useless.
I think that's why
They're
I
just
like
fish
the
out of
science.
water.
I think
Yeah.
that's why I like the science fiction films. The Day the World Stood Still,
Exactly.
because we could literally have a literal amount of days stay still, and everybody would be freaking out, and we'd have mass suicides all over the place. It would be chaotic, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And considering that world was running on electronics even more than our world is now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and someone mentioned Summer Wars earlier. We saw what happened when the net went out in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a common theme in these kind of things. Definitely, I can.
Well, I mean,
But,
they
yeah.
do give a warning later in the series when they're using EMP weapons to not
Yeah.
use it in certain areas because it will
Right.
fuck up everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's a smart weapon to have. But
Right.
back to our wonderful killer. Basically, they try to. This killer is literally brought in by Makashima to bring Kogami in
To heal.
to this trap
Mhm.
to heal. and they do it by taking one of Akane's friends.
How fortunate, yeah.
Oh, that poor girl.
Yuki.
When you
yes.
saw her get like a bit of interest from any of the main characters other than her, you knew what was going to happen to that poor girl. Maybe not
Yeah.
exactly.
Kind of hoping it wouldn't
It
happen,
happened
but
to
you
her.
kind of knew that it
Yeah.
would. I think
I
so.
mean-
Yeah, she's probably the most tragic character of all of them in the first series. Season.
Once he was
set up-
kidnapped, you knew things were going down bad. But
Yeah.
that whole sequence. So I think that was over like a couple of episodes. That
Three.
whole
This
thing-
is a three or four
Yeah.
episode run. Actually, 4 episode. I'm looking at it right now.
right.
Yeah, they the first part is them just setting it up, and it
Mhm.
ends with the trap
Competition.
being set, which has basically Kagami goes in because he knows that it's possible. He already thinks it's going to be a trap, and Akane already thinks it's going to be a trap.
And it's at this point I'm getting kind of a Bone Collector kind of a vibe because he steps onto a train that just so happens to be running down a train track that hasn't been used like in like years, you know.
First
And
of all,
then they open up the sewage right in
Yep.
so they can't
Super
follow.
radioactive, toxic sewage crap that they can't get
Yeah.
through. Very
First
easy.
of all, they sprung the trap. Akane had gotten like a 3 a.m. message, supposedly from Yuki, that really didn't make any sense to her, and she had the presence of mind to check it out and take Kogami with her.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he insisted. He's like, I'm the enforcer. I'm the one who's supposed to go in. You get back up if you need to. And well, it was set up so that they would get separated, and yeah, they played right into the trap, unfortunately.
Of course, you get to wonder whose trap was what trap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This thing was turned around on its head a couple of times.
Well, yeah.
Well, clearly
Led
Nakajima was playing Senguji just like he played everyone
Well,
else.
I don't think he actually gave him he actually respected him more than he respected the last one.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he basically gave him a choice to live again another day.
Right.
It was
Which
really
is kind of a
his choice to
jigsaw. It was kind of a jigsaw moment.
Because there was almost the
This-
sadness of
this
that
was-
favorite toy dying.
Yeah.
This was a very jigsaw moment. They basically the train stops and they're in. Can't tell if it's like a sewer or some sort of factory
Hmm.
I think
area.
it was more of
but
a
It's
factory.
a bunch of walls that were developed by that old man. You know,
They
they're
had-
very
they had-
specific for games.
They had already mentioned before.
It was a train depot that they
converted to a
They-
pillaring trap.
they
it
had
was a
already
train
mentioned
depot that they
before
actually
this-
got off at.
This city had been built upon itself over and over again, and people had forgotten what the underground even was anymore. Which is how that one girl was able to get away with everything on the grounds of her school. Was people literally didn't know what was inside that building.
Yeah,
Was he
and
gonna
I mean
say
that's that's something that's unfortunately true. It's less true in America
Right.
than it is in Europe and Asia, where
Mhm.
they've built upon centuries,
Hmm.
where you actually have buildings on top. There are a few places in America, in Oregon, most famously, my famous that I know of is in Seattle. You have the Underground, which was a criminal underground place.
Yep.
Where
Which was
it
used in the new
sunk.
Malignant movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great place to go visit and have a nice tour, but it is spooky as hell. I will say you are going through what looks like cities underground because they are cities underground.
Mm-hmm.
The city literally built upon itself because it sank. So I mean, it's
Sunk into
creepy.
the swamp.
You want to know another city that has a city
I got it
underground?
right there. They sank in the swamp. They built another one. So that sank in the swamp. So they built another one. That burned down. Then sank in the swamp. And they built a third one, final one.
New York City is another city that is
Mhm.
built on top of a city.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But New York's a little bit better planned than some
Right.
places.
I only know
this-
this because when I lived there as a kid, I'd play in the subways system.
True. This,
But again, that's a little more planned out than just like random
this is
city
kind of
upon city.
Paris catacombs vibes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where they don't know all the catacombs. They've
Yeah.
never mapped all the catacombs. So people can do all kinds of crap in the catacombs, and you would never know it.
Right.
And they try to keep people out because people get lost and die because they never find a way out.
Yeah.
But so we have this sort of catacombs situation, and we get a fox hunt.
Mhm.
Literally with cybernetic dogs and
They were beautiful dogs, though.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now don't forget this rifle is powerful enough to blow people's heads off.
Oh,
Yeah, but it is
Which
an
is
old
Basically,
school
an
double-
elephant gun.
That was another barrel
old
shotgun.
double-barreled elephant gun. Like he takes his time. He hunts. He cracks it
Precision.
open, does 2 bullets at a time. He is patient and willing to take the time because he is an old school hunter.
Mhm.
He's the
And-
Van Pelt of the storyline.
Yeah.
Or the hunter from Jumanji, the same kind of personality. Person.
Yeah.
Wacko.
The big game hunter. And what bigger game is there?
Human.
Other than man?
He's
Really
like
Look at
an
me in
old-
this case.
One
But,
of the biggest game possible.
and unfortunately, Kogami is held back by having Akane's friend.
yeah.
Because while he could have not been there and the trap been set, it was all the more important. And we learn as part of the things that they gain along the way is a sort of walkie-talkie. And on her, which is one of the more scandalous scenes of the series, is part of the walkie-talkie unknowns to her.
It's in her bra.
It's in her bra.
Those
and
damn bra wires.
Well,
No, why would that old man really want to give him a pathway to ownership? You know, this
I
No,
don't
no,
think
that
it
was
the old man.
the mastermind.
It wasn't the old man,
That
though.
a little bit of danger. He was thought he was just going to be so easy to win that he had to put some sort of safety path for Kagami to go through and take care of him.
Makishima wanted to test Kagami. So,
Yeah.
Makishima that taped the stuff on there and did that with the bra.
He wanted
And
to see what the old man can do, but he also wanted to see what Kogami could do.
Kogami
And
could
to him, it was
He just
he
wanted
could
to see.
have gone either way, and he would have still
Well,
been amused.
it was when they finally got the antenna found and the rest of the
Video
equipment
and
set up. I mean, he even says, "Well, it's no longer a game. It's time to end it." Because in his mind, the game was up, and
Yeah.
he was like, "Okay, we can leave." And the other guy's like, "Nah, you should have known better." And part of him probably did, but I'm sure there was also that part like, "Well, yeah, but I would like to have had both of my toys."
Right.
now,
It's first.
I want
I don't-
I don't want to lose this toy.
I don't want to gloss over the fact Kogami is such a badass. He's come in this with just a shock baton and
Mhm.
still takes down one of these cybernetic dogs on his
Mhm.
own.
Mhm.
Where the battery pack is on its
Right.
back.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
He's a superhuman, super athlete because he definitely, gets out of one problem after another by doing all kinds of martial arts flicks and supreme shooting guns and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, and it also becomes like Akane's like soulmate or some in some way. She's
There
always
was definitely some love and
information.
sexual tension there. Just
It's like
saying.
a little boy, the conscious of Akane. So, oh no, you shouldn't look at it this way. You should look at it this way instead. You need to look at it this way because this way criminals think. You think this way, but the criminals think this way.
There are definite sparks between them, but then nothing ever really happens. And
Right.
at least I haven't seen season 3. I don't know.
The Akane
Supposedly
becomes
there's a
kind of
season 4.
obsessed.
I don't know.
Yeah, she definitely does. I think she gets in a way. She gets obsessive over him because she wants to drag him back and get his justice. But I think because she loves him, she doesn't want him to leave.
Mhm.
It's scary if you ask me about it.
As this hunt unfortunately does come to an end,
Yeah.
our killer is killed, and Makishima tries to
Do one last hurrah.
away with him, just to make sure he has a hostage. And this is where we learn the big secret.
Well, the
is the puppet master.
well, yeah. Basically, Kogami is injured to the point where he can no longer pursue him, and Akane goes after him herself.
Yeah.
And that's where you get that great confrontation where he has her friend hostage. She has her dominator, and it won't
work. In fact, it goes backwards. It goes down to 0.
Yeah, it goes all the way to 0. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a way of controlling his soul.
And and he turns around and offers up the shotgun.
Yeah.
And literally says, "Use that.
Use
that to kill me. Do
or
it
watch
now.
your friend die.
Yeah.
Or I will kill your friend."
In that scene, I almost thought she was going to wind up shooting her friend, which would have also been.
She did finally fire off the gun, but she had.
Yeah, she shoots once, and then she mistakenly shoots again because she was so panicked about it.
Yeah. But but in that scene, he gives this law. He does the speechifying, the villainous speechifying, but the Bond villain speech. But in this case, it was actually really good because it's like he's clearly the villain. He's clearly a sick, twisted, evil dude. But almost everything he says, it's hard to disagree with. And Akane herself has trouble disagreeing with a lot of what he says.
Yep.
And he does offer her a path to take him down, but it involves using lethal force without being told to use lethal force. And she just, he really put her in a spot.
And doesn't want to. In the end, Akane kind of believes in not killing, right? So she just didn't just couldn't get over that fact that her friend will die. She just didn't. I don't think she even believed it that he's going to do it. And that's what the real horror of it. When he does do it, she definitely has the first true shock of the whole series.
Yeah.
The best part of this whole
shock when Spooky Boogie died because that was an acquaintance of hers, and she felt responsible for it, at least for a little bit.
I mean, she feels responsible throughout the series. She feels responsible when she shot Kagome or Kagame.
Right.
Dave.
So I mean, she feels responsible each time we see it, but it doesn't cloud her psychopaths.
Dave, you were trying to say something.
Yeah. I think the best part of this hunt is when you hear Ludwig van Beethoven's The Ninth Symphony in the background while he's actually like running and whatnot. When I heard that in the background, I was like thinking Clockwork Orange.
I was thinking about Die Hard.
For a little of the old
it's not. It is Ode to Joy, the particular point of Ninth Symphony. So it is an anime favorite. Of course, it was infamous in Evangelion. Again, here I know several other anime have used Ode to Joy. Because it is a copyright-free song, you can use it, and it is such a great song.
If I'm remembering correctly, I think we covered another one. They utilized it in Gunslinger Girl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Gunslinger Girl utilized a lot of music to its advantage.
That's another thing I like about this anime. They did a really good job on the music and the pacing. And there are several times during the show where I'm like, oh yeah, this is a banger.
The first opening was probably one of the more interesting things to me because I think it's the first time I heard somebody scream words quietly.
Yeah.
I actually now the one thing I predicted from the first from first knowledge of it, and then first getting to know Makishima, I knew that the Dominator wasn't going to work on him.
Yeah.
And that's because Makishima's a sociopath.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if you, again, it's all about understanding or antisocial personality disorder in current psycho
Mhm.
speak. And the main focus of that, there's actually two types of people with that. There's a type that relies more on anger, and that's the only emotion they can feel. Those people can be judged. But then there's that rarer type, which literally cannot feel emotion or empathy.
And that's the completely
Ted
detached.
Bundy, the Ted Bundys of the world.
And
Mhm.
without the ability to feel emotion,
Mhm.
There's no psychopaths.
there is no psychopaths. There is no
Right.
reading it. It's just all, and everything has to be fake. Everything
And whatever-
we learned from a
Whatever
line.
there would have been
Mhm.
completely controlled by Makishima.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's why it starts at 23 or whatever small amount that starts going down more and more to zero.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Which is why he is so, probably one of the reasons why he's so studious, why he's always trying to observe and learn.
Boredom is the
It's-
greatest emotion
yeah.
he feels.
There you go.
Well, it's
Yeah.
not like an eviler Hannibal Lecter. You know, the guy that definitely would scoop your brains out and give it to you for a meal.
I bet he would have been thrilled to meet Lecter.
Oh, God, yeah.
We're gonna have a really nice discussion about how humans work.
Right.
Oh, he would. Like Hannibal Lecter would put him on the top of the food chain. That's for sure.
But
All right.
yeah.
Anything else anybody wants to say about this particular case that brought the sort of big
That's done.
middle scene?
Mhm.
No,
the
just
anime.
that ending scene of Akane after when she was
Mhm.
sitting out there and on the grating and then outside, just her face,
Just her broken and just
her
yeah.
broken. Yeah,
That
that
was-
was
My heartstrings went out to
Yeah.
her when she was up there on that ledge, and he just held her life in his hands. You know, it just really did.
This definitely goes on the short list of characters I've seen that just got completely screwed for the sake of the story in an anime. And it's not one of the worst. I'm
It's
still
it's
thinking
not a
ones
body
that-
in the fridge moment.
It's not quite as
so-
bad as Nina Tucker or even Mace Hughes in Full Metal. It's not quite as bad as
Well, yeah,
Sherry and
Well,
Kogia,
they
but-
even showed the cremation part
Yeah.
a little bit,
yeah.
which was kind of a little dark.
But that is getting into the second part. Now we'll go ahead and say just finally, other than that little twinge of, oh my God, they actually went there. This is a great way to end the middle of the first core of the show. Like
Yep.
as far as like a mid-season ender, this one had a hell of a mid-season end.
Oh no! When I remember when first watching it, and Roger, you may remember it, have had the same sort of the same thing, since you were watching it at the same time it was releasing as I was. I remember I was just like,
Gasping for air.
"Damn, they did that!" I was like,
I was
"Damn!"
gasping for air, man. It make me wait another week. Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's like, holy crap! And this was probably, this is probably also one of the reasons why Psychopaths is so big. It was the big anime of the season that came out, but it was also one of the first anime to be streamed. So that's why this became so big, was because, yeah, it was the first. Anime streaming was just starting, and Psychopaths came out when it did. Hulu brought it on. Funimation did the dubbing. I don't know if Japan streamed it themselves, but it brought it into the homes a lot better for people to watch. I'm kind of amazed they didn't bring it to Adult Swim, but at the same time, I know why they don't bring it to Adult Swim. Jacob, are you still there? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, you weren't moving for a second there. I couldn't tell.
Oh,
But let's go on into the next two episodes because they're not cases. It starts the cases, but they're sort of filler in between. We do get one look at a past case, And this gives us the backstory of Yayoi.
Right.
And it gives us an inside look of the prison system.
Which
Oh
we kind of alluded briefly to this earlier, but the other enforcer, Kagari, was the one who was pegged as a criminal at age 5. And he was, I think, the first one that we got his backstory. And then Yayoi was the last one, really, that we got hers. And I thought hers was a pretty good little story.
The control of the culture, the control of the music, the control of the arts that are allowed and not allowed.
Yeah.
Censorship.
The censorship.
Artists are allowed to have a clouded psychopath based on this. But if you cloud psychopaths too much, you're censored. You're not allowed.
Which means creativity is not allowed.
Hence the Superman, Creepo, and the deep dark dungeon plays inside the building.
If you don't play the music we like to hear, you do not play at all.
Well, I think probably the wording would be more along the lines of, if your music causes people to have a clouded psychopath or something, which I'm sure they probably, that was the metric.
Which is a heavily clouded area that has been going on since like rock and roll. At first was instigated into public society. You know,
you just have to look at the case of the Monkees. I mean, they were one of the first corporate product bands.
Yeah, the first music video.
They a lot of their music had to have double meanings because that was the only way they could get it by the censors.
Yeah, I remember the show.
Yep. So
I remember, good Lord, that's aging me. But yeah, I remember it as well.
I love the Monkees. I had a record of the Monkees, even though it was 20 years before my time.
I'm the monkey. Yes. They were horribly catchy.
Yeah, there were a bunch of actors that they actually decided to start playing. They did get kind of like a group together eventually, but it was kind of an interesting study. You know, how they started out as a corporate product, like the Embry was talking about, and then they actually became sort of like a group. Say, hey, we really want to sing. We don't want to do this corporate crap anymore. We want to do our own thing.
They definitely don't hold a candle to the Beck, though.
It was CBS's answer to the Beatles. They wanted to create a show around the Beatles, but they wanted it to be, quote, family friendly. Which they had it's an interesting thing if you ever want to look into it. But yeah, censorship in music's been around for years. In art, it's been around for years. Having studied art, I mean, there's still censorship to this day.
Absolutely.
My own art, I have to be censored with things, particularly when I'm doing the streams on live streams on Saturdays, or doing reads on Thursdays. I have to watch what I have to say because they're on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I have to follow their standards. I can't be drawing anything nude. Can't be drawing lewds. Can't be drawing gore. So it's like, okay, I have to do the family friendly in a sense. Even though I got away with calling one "Let's Draw Boobs" this week. Okay.
And of course, that caused all kind of craziness back when, a couple of years ago, I guess at this point, when YouTube was doing all that, everyone was super paranoid about them going to crack down on everyone. And
they
it was
still
like,
do.
Well, yeah,
do.
But you know what I mean? Like when everyone was really paranoid about it, and it was part of it was the whole thing was like, you can't do anything at all that might be offensive to or disturbing to or damaging to kids, even though kids are not supposed to be on the platform in the first place. And it's like, what is the hell? What the hell? It's like,
well, another good story was that the Dungeons and Dragons back in the day. Everybody was playing it, you know. Hey. They said, "Oh, they get devil worshippers. They're sacrificing cats."
there was plenty of times when I was playing Dungeons and Dragons online where there was a 6-year-old kid playing on their father's account. So it was kind of like kosher.
I think Roger's more talking about like in the 80s when it was
in the craze.
It was supposed to be a banned product because of all the evilness in it. You know, people were pretending to be something else. Mazes and Monsters came out.
Mm-hmm.
It could be reprogrammed.
It's interesting, like now in this world, like if you're thinking about like the music and the art and the acting, any TV that might be going on, one gets the distinct impression that it would basically be like the Disney Channel all day, every day, but like Disney Channel married with the Hallmark Channel, basically, like with everything that could be offensive sanitized out.
No, Disney Channel married with the Stepford Wives. There we go.
It is odd because even in season 2 and in the movie, we don't really see television in the series. They don't really show us television. They don't show us the movies.
And you got to have Dr. Oz Botox commercials in there somewhere. I don't know why, but anyways.
And there were recommended channels. Remember the news channel? Did you watch the recommended news channel today?
Oh yeah.
Everything is in the eyes now.
I got the impression that was something that they had in that department. Like maybe I got the wrong impression, but I got the impression that as part of their service as inspectors, it was recommended that they watch that particular program.
Well, I think that was pretty much
I could be wrong. But like, I mean,
PBS was a preferred program.
Well, I mean, I know, like, as a county employee, I have things that are sent to me as like recommended articles to read or whatever, and that was kind of how I read it. But I could be wrong.
At Air Force One, the Air Force One channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got all the news through there.
All right. Basically, let's get back to this story a little bit. We get a bit of Yo-Yo's past where she met another band that she loved. She went to basically her psychopath got too cloudy, so she got put into prison. Mm-hmm. She couldn't get guitars. Therapy. Yeah. Which we learn in this episode, no one really comes back from therapy.
Yeah.
So it's unheard of. Her brief moment that she can quote live her life a bit more is if she accepts to be an enforcer.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Kogami being an actual investigator, not an enforcer in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe
we also get a touch of his partner.
Right?
Yeah, we even see his partner, Sashishima, who is a known pervert and a hothead.
His enforcer, rather.
Yeah, the enforcer.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically have to hunt down this band that is corrupting people's psychopaths, which, of course, is the band that Yayoi loved.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically has to go back and confront them and decide, do I want to be an enforcer and live my life, or do I want to let these people go out and cause anarchy? And they were making bombs and setting people loose as an anarchist group.
Mm-hmm.
And she did hesitate for just like one blip of a second when her I got the sense that they were lesbian lovers at one point in time.
Maybe. I mean, she is a lesbian. Yayoi is a lesbian. She sleeps with Shion all the time. So maybe they were lesbian lovers. We never really got that scene, but I mean, it was probably cut for scene. It could have been cut for multiple reasons.
There's only one good lesbian scene at the end there.
And the implication is that they were more than just lovers, that they actually kind of did care about each other, at least to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
But ultimately, she chooses the life of an enforcer.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, we also see how much of a shithead Sashishima was that was Kogumi's enforcer that he didn't be in charge of. He started a fire in this bar. Well, started a riot/fire in the bar. One guy. And
that was pretty wild.
Yeah. But they do succeed in the end, and it goes on to the next episode, which is Akane having to both face back the horrible event of losing her friend through a mind reading device.
Mind scoop.
Mind scoop.
Because they don't have a clear image of Makishima, and she is the only one who's seen him.
And we finally learned that Ginza and Makazoka are father and son. We learned that connection finally at this point, and that's what turned him is the whole going into the crimes and doing this. And he's afraid that Akane's, because she's going this mind thing, which, by the way, does not work in the second time they do this later in this next series.
Well, the second time they force it. They force it on somebody.
They force it on somebody, and it goes bad.
Yeah, it seems more like it's a voluntary thing rather than a forced thing.
Yeah, but yeah, she's forced to have to. Well, I mean, she has to relive this moment to get the image of Makishima, because they still don't have an image of Makishima to go by. And since the psychopath doesn't work, they need to use facial recognition. So that is what this whole episode is basically about, is getting that moment.
And they do.
And they do.
And I guess they link him all the way back to like their first case or whatnot in their facial recognition software.
Well, they very quickly realized that, yes, he was indeed the teacher that had gone missing from the school files. And
he was the one that sent the drone program. And he was, I mean, they're finding the links. And they're like, holy crap. And at the very end of this episode, we are introduced to the helmets.
Oh yeah, one of the better storylines in the whole bit. It's
basically this is going to be the longer plot storyline that goes into it. Before we get into the helmet, is there any other notes that anybody want to talk about that happened in these 2 episodes?
I don't think so. This pretty much was a pretty good cover.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go on to the helmets. When we first meet the first helmeted killer, he literally walks into a druggist and demands drugs and kills the 2 people in there. And the psychopath's warning does not go off. The only reason they know about this case is, I believe, the cameras.
Cameras are so fun.
She was screaming into the camera.
Yeah, she was screaming into the camera for help. I got Joker vibes off of this, just simply because of the smacking the head down on the table with the scissors.
This is a very Batman-esque plot case. And yeah, I do see the Joker very much in this, especially if you use the concept of Joker gas in place of the masks. But while they're investigating this druggist situation, they're trying to figure out how the hell somebody killed them, got in, and walked out, because the system would not let somebody in unless they had a clear pass. Another guy, or at least we don't know if it's the same guy or another guy, in a helmet, walks up to a woman on the street and beats her in front of everybody to death.
Oh man, yeah.
I think he was an obsessive fan. He was like an obsessive fan, and she felt that
coworker.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that one of the interesting messages there is the reaction of the crowd to it.
Yeah.
It's just
It's already
basically,
coming.
well, we're all clear here, psychopath.
Oh yeah, the
so
crowd's
therefore,
reaction of just staring
this is just,
and
you know,
videotaping.
Yeah, I think we had something just like that happen in New York just recently. People started filming and raping them.
Something's
this
happened in
kind
New
of
York
like
and in London before too. There was literally a case where a guy went around stabbing people, and people just stood there filming it. And they're like,
Yeah.
that's
wow.
the thing, though. And
People think it's a
crowds
film or a
learn
movie.
to not get involved, and that's the problem.
But it's also, as they pointed out, a lot of the people literally didn't have the mental tools to process what they were
Yeah.
seeing. They were just so
They were
completely
unprepared.
shocked.
They were mentally unprepared for this kind of
Yeah.
situation. So
Oh yeah, no, there was no thought of murder. What's murder?
Yeah.
but
even
at the same
so,
time,
it really
it was
is
still raising their psychopaths.
It's definitely an indictment on this society, though, that they could be in that shape where they could see something that's so clearly wrong and not even realize that it's wrong. Yeah.
And they get alerts because they're starting to get, the psychopaths of this area is raising, so the mass of the area is starting to be like, holy crap! But still, they can't trace the guy, and they're like, well, why can't we trace this guy? Why is he not being picked up? And they finally realize his psychopath matches someone else's psychopath.
So as long as there's somebody with a lower psychopath, it'll read off that lowest psychopath.
Yeah, it reads off of other people's psychopaths and goes for the lower.
Yeah.
And that is what this helmet does, is it hides one psychopath and it puts somebody else's out there.
And it has a small bit of an area effect, because the woman getting pummeled to death, her psychopath must have been like off the hook at that point, but there was no.
Because other people's psychopaths were either unaffected or very little affected.
The drones were reacting to her because they were like, "Your psychopath is going high.
Yeah.
Do you need to go see a therapist? Would you like to go?" And this is the woman getting beaten to death.
It's pretty horrific. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you all right? Yeah.
And I mean, it makes it all the more weirder because you've got these weird cartoony heads asking this. To this woman, and while this guy's just beating him, and by the end of this episode, because this all happens in one episode, we see another 3 guys getting helmets.
Yeah, they're actually handing out helmets to everyone else.
Yeah. Well, that happens.
Handing them out.
They got to break. They first break into the. These are first the 3 punks that go after the armored car. So at the end of the first episode out of this, we learn, it's not one guy, it's multiple. And these helmets are going to start being given out, and this is Makishima's plan. And they go, in the next episode, they go and they bust open a armored car. They rob an armored car, which is unheard of in this day. No one would dare do something like this. They come back and they bring what they brought from the armored car to Makishima. And then they try to be like, "Oh, fuck you, we can take you down," and Makishima kicks their ass.
That baseball bat was brutal. That baseball bat was brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those moments. It's like, could Makishima really get betrayed here? And it's like, no, he's too badass.
You wouldn't know until of course, he's a martial artist up to a pretty high degree.
Very much so.
And then we start seeing,
and it's actually see another big plot, because it's not just the helmets; it's the other side of the community.
Yeah. Well, it's the whole plot to basically explode the entire region of psychopaths and just making people paranoid. And
this is the story that's set up in the very beginning, where you see the conflict between the two. And it's built up to be much more epic than it turns out being. Really.
Oh, you mean the big confrontation between them?
Yeah, Makishima and whatever his name is.
Well, actually, yeah, that was an interesting little bit of misdirection that they did, starting the series with a scene that doesn't take place at the big final confrontation, but at the penultimate confrontation.
Yeah.
If you expect that to be the final fight between them at the end,
Well, it's film noir. You never, when you get that scene at the beginning of the end, it's never really truly the end.
On the wall, and the gun's going to be used at some time.
So I mean, you get that playthrough, and I think the only time that film noir truly ended the way it began was Sunset Boulevard, where you have the dead body in the pool, and that is truly where it ends. But a lot of time in film noir, it's somewhere in the middle that you come into, and it builds from there. But you see the case be built up. And in this case, Makishima's overall plan was to create these mass chaos. The public doesn't accept it. There starts to be backlash against it. To the helmeted people, to the non-helmeted people, to the point where people are blaming each other. Hey, I saw you with a helmet. I'm going to kick your ass and beat you up because my ass won't get spotted. Damn it, because I'm doing the right thing.
They started with concerned citizens because they got together in groups and we got to take care of these helmeted people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of blossomed from there. From people started saying, "Oh, you're a helmeted guy," and this happened there, and people start killing wantonly. And that's what Mishima wanted. He wanted to. I think he wanted to test his civil system. He wanted to test it and see how far he can go.
Well, it's
What I
like all
love
these.
on top of all that, that was just a decoy ploy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
It was levels and levels of
Eventually, there's more stuff. He wanted to get rid of the civil system. He hated it.
He was bringing out all these concepts that people had completely forgotten even existed, like the mob mentality, vigilante justice, and all this stuff. It's like,
it's like the Wild West. Here's about law. Let's take care of it.
You ever notice, though, in all these cases, almost everybody, and this happens in the same with the first and second season, that all of the people who are trying to free society from the civil system are people that you're looking at and it's like, well, I can't really join your side either because you're scumbags.
Exactly.
They're not getting good. They're evil. They don't like the structure of this particular society. So
we haven't actually even, I don't think we've even mentioned, but there's an additional character at Makishima's side.
I don't think he really gets a name.
I think he does. Isn't it is it Kogu-sung?
Yeah, he was like the
maybe.
I
think
he's
Chinese.
Yeah, he's
Chinese.
Supposedly knew all of Mishima's plans. Right. And he was in the forefront. At the end,
he is the hacker.
He's
the hacker that did all the things throughout the series that Makishima hired. This is the genius hacker. He comes from China. He's one of the few people that have immigrated to Japan. And immigration apparently is unheard of again. This is something else that's unheard of these days. Immigration, because Japan basically has closed themselves back up, which is a traditional moment of Japan stories, that they're a closed society. They were always a closed society for years. One Piece itself is covering this in a sense with the Wano arc right now.
That's why the world has fallen apart. The only Japan supposedly has this civilization still going on because the world has fallen apart.
So, it's a very important moment. And then because of all this chaos, yes, Makishima has a greater plan. He gets some true thugs, some powerhouse guys, gets them in a van with power tools because they can't get weapons. And they get in a bus and they go to the government building, the Nina Tower, which is unprotected because everybody else is attacking elsewhere. The police are having to be directed elsewhere. And Kogami and Akane go, that's not right. We need to go that way. And they grab Kagari, which is the redhead guy who was caught at age 5. They take him with them to go and check out the tower because they're like, oh no, this may be the target. They go to the target. Yes, apparently Makishima split his hacker guy goes downstairs and he goes upstairs.
Yeah, they weren't convinced which way they would go, so they split themselves in twos as well. One will go to the top, one will go to the bottom level, and whoever gets to Mishima first would be the one that will take them on.
Well, Makishima himself, he talks to the other guy. He's like, you need to be able to work unimpeded. They're coming for me, so I'll go up top. You go where you need to go. And well, he was right. They were coming for him, but they did have the foresight to split as well, which was good.
When I saw him heading for the basement, I knew he was going to die.
We got our ultimate goal.
I didn't know who was going to kill him.
After. He was after to expose Sybil. And so we find out Sybil is in this building. Where we don't know at the beginning of this, but we learn in the end, and we learn what Sybil is a little bit later.
Right now we only think that Sybil is a computer system of some sort, like an Oz.
It's not long later either, because after the end of this, it really follows up after the confrontation with Makishima, and he gets, I love how he's taken down because he's beaten the crap out of the other guy, and it looks like it's just all there. The dude gets whacked in the back of the head.
To be fair, they had one worry because Akane was with Kogami, that the Dominator would not work because of the helmets.
Right.
Yeah.
So they had a helmet. They put it on Akane. They run upstairs. They get attacked by 4 guys and Makishima. They take down, or Kogami takes down most of them, but gets shot in the process by a nail gun. And one of the more badass, and I don't know, is there no glass in this building? Because he just sends one guy straight on through the wall.
To his death, to a death drop.
Yeah. Which was what you told me.
I actually had some humor in this. I said, well, me having the helmet thing didn't matter because Mishima was around. Well, that's the thing I'm made for.
And so while the two of them have a fight, Kogami gets his butt kicked, and all of a sudden Akane comes behind him
and whacks him with the head.
With back of the head with the helmet.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit of irony of justice.
Yeah.
irony.
I think that really it does show the end what Akane's strength is, even though it's kind of portrayed as a weakness in a sense because she does arrest him instead of kill him like he wants her to. But that is her strength. That's what keeps her psychopaths clear. And that's how she eventually ends up making the decision she does at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, she refuses to kill him. Kogami is pissed off. He's like, kill him, take him down now, do it now. And she refuses. And then we get a reverse look at Kagari's incident.
Right.
Kagari does the same. He fights off 4 guys, beats them up, and catches up to the
Chinese man,
the hacker, having been shot. He's already pretty bad shape. He's been shot with a nail gun a couple times. He walks in on the hacker, and the hacker's already filming. He's like, dude, I don't have to do anything. I just show this film, and Sybil is done.
It's toast. Everyone will know the secret.
And then the twist of all twists, the chief shows up and kills them both with a Dominator alter. She's able to alter the Dominator to go to elimination, beyond elimination mode, without
she vaporizes them.
the Sybil system.
Mhm.
Or at least Kaguri. She vaporizes him so that she can then report that he ran away in the confusion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
From the paralyzed mode right into the limp to the disintegrator mode,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
she takes care of it.
We
Yeah.
don't get to look at Sybil at that moment. We do get to look at Sybil later, but we don't. All we get is them looking at Sybil, which
At
I
some
think is a
point,
brilliant play.
Yeah.
Well,
We don't
it
really
was
get that
definitely a
until
brilliant
they
play
explain it.
on the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because it doesn't take long, because I mean, as you go into the next episode, they
They pretty
clean
much
that
show it
up,
at that point. Yeah.
and they
Well,
kind of
it's the
explain it
episode
to us.
after that. It's revealed when Makishima's on the plane being taken
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
because he gets on the helicopter, and he has a discussion with the chief. You find out that there's more to Sybil than just a machine, the clockwork justice system. Where she's in cahoots with bad people,
So you
and she
find
has
out,
invited them to join Sybil's cause.
you
But
find out what really happened to the specimen killer.
Yeah, we find out a lot of things. One, the chief is a cyborg.
Pure
We
cyborg.
learn that. It goes more into it, her body being cyborg in season 2. But we also learn the chief's brain at the moment is not the chief. It is the sample killer.
It's the machine's friend.
The father of Risa, or the killer from the Artie show, it is the chief.
The species killer.
Yeah, the specimen killer.
Now, was it shown that the brain was actually in the robot, or was it just?
It was the brain that was in control, and she kept referring to herself. I am Tomoe. I am Tomoe. That is who is in here right now.
Because what happens is a synaptic connection right here, and they just upload whatever personality they want to upload.
Well,
because the brain doesn't come up and like that. It just says upload. The personality is uploaded.
It has a direct connection because, as he says, they can still die if killed while the one is in control.
Yep.
I mean, he even says so at the end. It's like, well, it seems you're still afraid to die, and that's so it's more than just a simple upload. That individual is right there, whether it's connected to the brain and the brain goes after
it goes kaput.
But in it, we learn the ultimate science fiction moment that Sybil is nothing but brains in jars.
Sociopath.
Sociopath brains in jars, but brains in jars.
Abby something.
They believe that having all these brains in jars and parallel with each other, but they would complement each other and give them the ultimate opportunity to be omnipotent, and they can find out and control society and all this other stuff. Apparently, it does its job very well too, because Akane agrees.
Yeah.
Well,
that's going a bit
She
further,
wants to
but
fight the system, but she knows the people are not ready.
Well, she wants
order.
She doesn't agree with the system. She agrees with the results.
Yes.
And
until she can find a better alternative to it to bring order.
Once Makishima figures out he's on a plane, and the way he figures it out, he does the Jurassic Park moment of watching the water shake. I'm in movement here. I'm not in a building. So he wrecks the plane and survives. We don't know how.
Comic book stuff.
He's Makishima.
Maybe he jumped out. Maybe it was Superman.
There was a crash and he survived. That's all we know. And the civil system all of a sudden tells Akane, you need to come with us. You need to learn something. And at this point, we're also learning that Ginzo, his psychopath is going crazy.
Yeah.
He's slipping.
He's gone past the point of no return.
Not yet, but
and
he's
Close.
close.
He's
Yeah.
close.
throwing them off is the chief keeps sending them after Kagari,
Yeah.
who is dead. We know is dead. The chief killed him. The chief knows it's dead.
It's just a diversion to keep them
It's
busy.
just a diversion.
Yeah.
And so while they're looking for Kagari, Akane's sent to go speak to Sybil,
Mhm.
and Sybil tells it basically, we want you to know that we exist, and we want you to make sure you bring in Makishima alive, because we want its brain.
Well, this is
Mhm.
after.
It's part of the part of the community, anyways, in their kind of community.
Yeah.
This is after the chief, again, to emphasize there, she keeps sending him after Kagari because she wants Kogami away from Makishima.
From
She
Makishima.
wants him off the case.
They want
And when he goes AWOL, that's when the Sybil brings her in because they
That's
know
true.
that,
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's once
because
he goes AWOL.
Kogami does go AWOL.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
he put the helmet on, and then he escapes.
Yeah.
Well,
Three
they
people
do
help him.
try other things first because the order comes down that they've got to catch him again alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's upset about that. And they figure out this plan. This is where guy who's normally by the law is willing to bend it. He says,
Yeah.
well, you know what we can do? Because we need his valuable expertise. Let's put him on with another inspector
Mhm.
who is now tasked with hunting their dead
Right.
friend. That's, and then he can still he can still be of use with that hunt. But they estimate it, and it's part of an important thing there too, because Akane does observe whether he's being told basically by the chief, you need to kill them, and you can
Yeah.
see the gun change to the disintegration mode
Mhm.
with her touch, which she's able to put two and two together once she gets the secret revealed,
Mhm.
which leads to her later at the
Yeah.
end.
And at that point, doesn't she shoot him herself so that the
Yes.
chief won't do it?
She does
Yeah,
it herself
she-
so that he doesn't have to
She
do
does
it.
another
Right.
stun, but this time it's in the leg, as they
Right.
point out. And they're like, oh, well, her aim's getting better.
And that's when he
Last time
flies
she
it.
shot him in the back.
Right, with help from
Hospital.
Masaoka. Masaoka
Um,
tells him of a safe house he has.
Yeah.
Masaoka gives him the keys to a safe house,
Yeah.
and Shion gives him the helmet.
Yeah.
The helmet gets a gun, and he's going to take care of Makishima.
Mhm.
And he gets
Yeah.
help from his
Yeah.
teacher as well at the
Yeah.
He gets help from the teacher,
Yeah.
and this is where the teacher's like, well, if you go after this guy as is, I'm fucked at this point. I'm already, the police, they don't like me. You came here, you're asking advice. If I help you along, I've got to go to prison.
Yeah.
He said, oh, well, let's do it anyways. Who cares?
But I'll do it anyways. And while this is not Makishima's great plan, we learned that Makishima has backup plan number 2.
Yeah. Yes,
Get
one
him
more
in the food
piece of fireworks he could use to take care of society.
Yeah. But we of course learn about Sybil, the brains in the jar, and as we have to establish, they are not normal brains. They are the psychotic brains. They are killer
All
brains.
brains that have very low psychopaths. They all have the property of not having an increasing psychopaths.
They have no psychopaths, but at the same time, they say there are worse than Makishima.
But they're all kinds of people, from psychopaths to artists to maybe just brainiac people. But they all have no psychopaths or very little psychopaths.
So we sort of get a split moment where Kogami goes in. He works out with the profiler, and they figure out that the attack is going to be on Japan's weakness at this point,
This is
which is wheat. It's the primary source of food. Which is
Yeah, they
weird.
put all their
Japan's
eggs in one
primary source
basket.
of food has
Yeah.
never been wheat.
Mhm.
It's growing to be wheat, but it's still never been wheat.
Actually, I found this whole thing kind of fascinating as someone who's really into, horticulture and the whole idea of people not understanding the natural order of things. They basically had it so so what's the word I'm looking for? Dehumanized is mechanized, I guess.
Yeah.
That like it was all automated. That's the word I was looking for. It was all automated. And they had a genetically engineered super crop that was basically the lion's share of all the food for the country was based on this super crop. And it's like, yeah, you really are setting yourselves up for a fall.
See, didn't they
Well,
learn
I mean,
from Solid Grain they need to use people?
It's sad to say. I mean, we are kind of going to that kind of society with food
Yeah.
these days, where we're mutating the types of food we have, and just
Yeah.
The
use the crop,
GMO
and we
of
can
crops
alter
and
flavor.
In our case, it's been done in the past with breeding different animals together and putting plants together. But now we could do it instantly with CRISPR and the variants of CRISPR or whatever else it's supposed to be. So instead of being taking years and decades, now it could just be a matter of days or weeks.
So bad idea.
I thought
foods are here to stay.
all the time.
Freaking wheat, freaking food, and all this other kind of stuff. Freaking
And,
tomato.
Kogami figures out that there's going to be this one guy. Now, I don't know how they figure out this one guy. I think it came down to we're running out of time for episodes as to who it was they were going to find was the person. But he's just he's just too late before Makishima got there and took the guy's fingers and took the guy's eyes.
Get past the security system.
Present behind for Akane to find.
And this is where she gets to do some real detective work too, because she looks at it and she's like, he left a clue. We got to figure out where and what it was. And they end up finding a thumb drive?
USB drive inside the corpse.
Yeah, inside his throat. Yeah,
in his throat.
Yeah.
Now, Tanya also makes a deal with Sybil, so he can Sybil will allow Kagami to come back again if Sybil could find and not have Mishima die in this circumstance, and this instead get captured.
She
basically
on paralyzed.
Basically, Makishima's life buys Kogami's essentially.
Yes. If he can get him alive, and then she has
his own life.
Well, and she's able to by observing this stuff put two and two together that because Sybil's like, no, I can't alter the gun, no, and she's like, I know damn well you can alter this freaking gun. So yes, you set this to paralyze, and it's like,
okay. I'm walking on paralyzed no matter what.
So we get to the chase scene, quote scene.
Yes.
I do find it amusing. I do find it amazing that while Kagami gets there after Makishima, he's stuck on the outside until after Akane and them get there. Because they use a helicopter, he's on foot because he left his motorcycle over by the road.
But now he can't get to security.
Yep. So he has to wait for them to cut the power to get in and deal with Makishima.
I don't know why.
Who does he contact Akane? How come Akane turn off power? If you only do this way, you'll save the whole world. You're going to have to do it anyway. You're supposed to turn it off.
Well, I keep seeing that scene where you've got in Die Hard, I give you the FBI.
Exactly.
As they cut the power and they open up the safe.
Right. But yeah, they do have to do that, and then Akane actually misreads Makishima by essentially Genoza and Masaoka go one way, Kunizuka and Akane go the other way. And it turns out that the father and son are facing Makishima, and we get another one of those unfortunate.
Well, that one really.
Basically, Akane and Ioi go after Control Center because they're like, oh well, if he's going to release this virus to kill off the crowd, he's got to do it in the Control Center. They go there, and Gyoza and Masaoka go, well, he might try to escape. So let's go where he would try and escape. And yeah, unfortunately, it is the Masaoka and Gionza find Makishima. They find a trap that he set up. And Gyoza gets stuck underneath a heavy piece of equipment.
Some boxes or crates.
Closer to being like his dad.
Well, he's exactly at the end of this. He is exactly like his dad.
Like Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker. It has to happen again.
So yeah, he has his arm trapped, and his dad goes and actually captures Makishima and holds him down, but then Makishima brings out a pipe bomb.
Dave has decided to leave us to witness the end for himself.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on, Dave.
Yeah. Sorry, Dave. I know it's got the last bit here, but yeah, there are big moments. And for those who don't want to be spoiled, you're it's getting to the point.
It's a bit late now.
It's a bit late now. Masaoka,
Spoilers, everyone.
For his son, basically takes the bomb and gets blown up by the bomb.
He jumps on the bomb, and then tries to save his son and dies himself.
Yeah. And in the process, Ginzo rips his own arm out, which is horrific.
It's just a big bloody stump.
They did a beautiful bit of the noise.
Yeah,
The
and they
sound.
did some great sound and art in this scene,
Oh.
but it is just makes your skin crawl watching him rip his own arm out. Basically, finally, Kogami and Makishima catch up to each other and seriously get at it with shooting at each one another. Makishima has a knife, Kogami has a gun. Very reminiscent of this Vicious versus Spike moment. And with,
Actually, like a razor, like a barber's razor thing.
yeah, his weapon is a barber's razor.
Kogani got a knife, but he has a secondary.
Switchblade.
I don't think we really mentioned that, but Makishima, that straight edge razor, that's been like his weapon of choice the whole time.
Absolutely.
Talk
He took
about
care of
an old school.
Well, it's because it's
That
beautiful.
was a beautiful blade, too.
What you prefer.
Very Sweeney Todd
Yes.
use of that character.
Very sweet. Yes.
But at some point, Makishima gets injured during their fight.
Yeah, bad one. He actually has a bad
He
one.
got stabbed.
Kogani is actually he's got free. He doesn't have any injuries that will cause death to himself. But Makishima actually has a pretty bad wound.
Yep. And Akane tries to stop the fight. Tries to stop once again Kagome or Kagami from
Killing Makishima.
Makishima. Makishima gets away in a truck briefly.
And a moment again where Akane shows her badass attitude.
Yeah, and we find
Indiana
Akane
Jones.
on that truck. And I mean, on the truck, she's latched on, hanging on, and she.
A remarkable transformation for the first season, for the first episode.
I didn't quite hear what you said there. Were you saying Indiana Jones?
That's saying Indiana Jones like. Say, wow, what is Indiana Jones being there for? It says it's been a remarkable transformation from the first episode until this episode. She went from meek and weak to Indiana Jones. He can jump off buildings. He can hang off things. He can comes back again and again like a bad penny. Well, you can see Makishima's face turn resolute. So that's girl's not dead yet. I can't believe it.
This brings to mind a line from Jurassic Park. She's tenacious.
I would say that
Lady Terminator. It keeps on coming.
The way it ends is really one of the ways that Makishima had been wanting to go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makishima very much wanted this end. And Kogami lives up to, and we get the moment where they chase each other because once Akane wrecks the truck by blowing up the tire, she's in bad shape. She's on the ground. She can't move. Kogami goes chasing after Makishima in the wheat field to a point where Makishima just gets tired, can't run anymore.
Yeah, he's bled out.
Bleeding out. And you have that moment of Kogami standing over him. Will he or won't he? And he does.
Of course he will.
He absolutely
He
will.
follows his character completely.
He said from the beginning, he is a dog. He will kill him.
But that's the great thing about the anime is that they did have him do it. So many anime would end it like, no, he won't do it at the end.
Oh, I don't believe in killing any. I learned from Akane not to kill anymore.
Yeah.
That thing. I was hoping that's not going to happen, but he took care of it. I said, yeah, this is how he's supposed to do it.
Her decision at the end to work with Sybil until she can destroy it, that's another thing that I wasn't sure I would expect, because a lot of anime would not go that way.
They're going to tear it down.
Exactly. Yeah, most of them would be all about tearing it down at any cost. And it's like...
Well, Akane has an unusual sense of justice and honor and duty. I think she looks at it as duty, not necessarily honor, but duty. Because without Sybil, they wouldn't have the right placement of enforcement of rules and regulations.
And that's the difference between this and a lot of these dystopian movies and books. And at the end of those, they're always bringing it down. But in this one, the bad guys are the ones trying to bring the system down.
Yeah, so they're bad guys. They're trying to get rid of the system. But the good guys are trying to keep people out of the dystopian people and keep it going. So let's put it like a reverse world. The good guys are trying to keep it going.
Also, Akane's determination of justice.
Yeah.
She is very much about justice and getting justice, making these brains also eventually come to justice.
And it brings us to the very bit of end here, which we see Kenoza is now an enforcer.
Mm-hmm.
He is basically taking on his dad's role. Akane gets a new partner and is introduced the same way she was introduced at the beginning of the show. So it's very reflective of the same show.
Mm-hmm.
There are two new other enforcers. Spoiler for those who don't want to know season 2, her partner, her new the new inspector is an ass. And she needs to die. But she doesn't. I wish she could, but she needs to die.
She does not endear herself in that second season.
She never endears herself.
What I liked was when they replayed that scene, there was definite differences in the wording of, remember, these people are human.
Well, that was the only
versatile that
verbatim except for the terminology.
One at a time.
Go ahead, Jacob, and then we'll get to Roger.
I'm sorry. I was just saying, it was kind of cool because it was essentially the dialogue was almost verbatim, except for Akane's terminology about the enforcers.
And you, Roger?
And basically, I was agreeing with Jake on it. Just that Akane decided to give them a human aspect to them instead of being they're dogs. You can't trust them. They'll kill you in an instant. Never leave them. Never disengage your attention to them. They're bad, but they're human, and we need to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and there's one final little scene. Nobody's shown in it. We just sort of see a boat. We can tell it's a boat because it's got a porthole, and we hear sort of seagulls and whatnot. And you see a book that Kogami's been reading, and it just ends that way. And that's a spoiler for the movie because you finally get back to Kogami in the movie, but you don't get to him in season 2. So if you're looking for Kogami, he does not return in season 2 at all.
Well, in real form.
Well, he returns
not
in
real form. He does come. He does come back in a way, but not in a physical body.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the series season 1. Final thoughts, and I want to because there's one thing I do want to address as a final thought, but I'll go through final thoughts. Let's go reverse. So, Roger?
Thoughts on the show? Please
Yes.
buy it. It's awesome. Yeah. If you're looking for action, you're looking for cerebral, you're looking for murder, you're looking for a storyline and art form, this is it. You know, you can get it for super cheap these days too. So if you're looking for a great anime, I would recommend Psychopaths.
Susan?
All right, yes, I fully agree. If you can afford to buy this, do so. It is a good piece of art, good music, amazing story. It's a story that makes you think, and it was an anime ahead of its time. It foretold like the VTuber lines. There's so much in this anime
Cancel culture,
that
VTubers,
you
yeah,
look
all that stuff.
All of it.
That was like back in 2012 that wasn't there, that you look at now and
It's
you're like,
part of
oh my
society.
god, this is
Right.
happening.
For people to remember, iPhone started in 2010.
Well, also it's that lack of all things offensive are gone.
Yep.
So yes, I would say I give this anime definite.
Thumbs up.
I agree. I agree. This is one I will have to put on the old pickup list. Well, it was on the pickup list, but now it's definitely on the pickup list. But it's a little problematic when you have a multi-season series that's not fully released. Do I want to wait for a more complete package or not? But
I have to say on that, the second season came years after the first, because it was popular. Third season came out a few years ago, and I think the fourth season came out last year.
Okay.
But the third and fourth are not available in the U.S.
Yeah, but the movie is.
Probably will be soon enough. But
the movie is. So. And there's a live action series too.
Good luck finding that, right?
And video games.
But anyway, but overall, yes, I do agree. This had some really, as we've mentioned, there are a few particularly visceral scenes. There's a couple of particularly emotional scenes. There's some really good philosophizing. There's some excessive philosophizing at times, but good philosophizing overall. And one of the best villains I've seen in a while. So definitely, I would say this is a good one.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think it was worthwhile. I'm glad that I own it, and it's one that when I heard the premise, I had to get it anyway. So it was there. It definitely has me emotionally and mentally in a different place than I've been in a long time for an anime. That it can affect you and affect your moods and affect how you are while you're watching it. That shows quite a bit. And yes, I do like the philosophizing and the general feel of it. I think it's one of those that's a good warning to all of us in a way. No matter where you are, no matter what you believe, there are some things that I think we could all agree on. This is probably not the best way.
We don't want dystopias. No, we don't want it.
All right. As far as my final opinions, of course, I love this. I recommended this. But there was one thing I wanted to bring up, and that this series did something unexpected, not only with predicting and things and whatnot. Up until the point this series came out, Japan did not care about mental health. This series sort of brought forth the concept that mental health needs to be important in Japan. And when you talk about the country that has the highest suicide rate, they actually do have one of the highest stabbing crimes. There are horrible crimes that people do not know about Japan. It is not as pretty and nice as people think it is. Unfortunately, it's a lovely place to visit, but the more you live there, the more you learn about the seedy dark side. And unfortunately, when you have companies that literally sort of force your way of living, you see those helped develop into this series why mental health was such a problem. and why people, the whole idea of the mental breakdown and why the society is based on mental projection is because of the way Japan was and still and very much is to this day. So that is why this series was kind of created, and why they use stuff like Philip K. Dick and Minority Report as elements to create this series. So it is a very impactful series to Japan's society, which was what made this series, I think, a little bit more touching to Japan, which is why it continues to be popular. Not only its prediction in society as a whole, but as in the society as a mental solution. Because Japan has been very close-minded society. There's so many reports these days, they don't let, it's very rare to have women in power there. It is very rare to have LGBT moments in Japan, and it's still an issue, but it's becoming a better issue, and it's because of stories like this that get told and help change the mind of society.
Working oneself to death is definitely not. Actually, that's praised in Japan in many ways.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
these dark factories,
black companies. Black companies are not a friendly place to work. If you do have the chance to work in Japan, because they are eventually going to open back up to bringing in more immigrants because of their population problem.
Yeah, they have an elder society problem right now.
Watch being taken advantage of. Watch the cults. They have a huge cult problem in Japan. So I mean, a lot of animes touch on these, but I mean, this anime in particular hit hard on.
Penguin Drum was like that. Penguin Drum was like talking all about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, the child broiler.
Did you love that show? I love it.
Yeah.
We definitely do.
Yes.
But well, actually, I think that's a great way of ending it out. But I think I'm going to go to each one of y'all, and because Jacob is going to be our chooser of the next anime, I'm going to end on you.
Okay.
And we're going to run through. And by the way, we're going to stop the rotation in February to celebrate Zetsubo Sensei finally getting a.
Yay!
I'm perfectly fine with rewatching it. I'm perfectly fine with rewatching that.
So the first season is going to be released on the 8th on Blu-ray here. So that's going to be a lovely thing. And so I just wanted to put that aside. I think that's a good reason to stop the rotation temporarily. But
I'm curious, Jacob. Are you going to give us something cheerful next time?
Very cheerful.
It has its moments.
He's always internally cheerful, no matter what.
Actually, yeah, you'll find out in a moment.
So I'm going to start out with Dave because Dave is unfortunately not with us at the moment. He had said that he really likes the fox hunt thing as one of his favorite scenes. And of course, Dave runs 2 channels, Inside Movies Galore, where they discuss movies, and we do it every Tuesday. So check it out. As a matter of fact, this coming Tuesday, the original classic Frankenstein, Universal monster film, is going to be brought up. We're very much looking forward to that as the end of our Halloween, and as we go into mustache matinees, so we'll be able to.
Amazing book.
You'll be able to
read the book, folks.
As well.
Read the book. It's a great book.
Oh, very good book. Not hardly anything like the movie though.
The movies are far different from the book, but give the book a chance too.
But Roger, tell us a little bit about yourself and your favorite scene or moment or storyline in Psycho-Pass.
Certainly. My name is Roger. I run Animazing Collections and Company. We are a small Facebook group that specializes in large-scale anime, manga, and figure collecting. We of course are always inviting new collectors. I always look forward to seeing what else is being discussed on the group almost daily. My favorite scene in the Psychopaths, the whole reason to watch it is to watch the lethal eliminator being used.
All right.
Absolutely, it's great. I could always back up a little bit and then watch it again. So, oh, that's something really cool.
Well, Susan, tell us a little bit about yourself and your favorite scene or storyline. And do you think you'll be back with us again?
I think I'd like to come back because this was rather entertaining.
Yep, once a month. We just at the last Monday of each month.
You gotta come back, Susan.
All right, my name's Susan. I'm just a housewife. I like to play video games and RPGs. Playing role-playing games is what I love to do. That and read. As for my favorite scene, goodness, there were several scenes, but during the art class, the art student murders, the way that the bodies were hidden inside of holograms, that, and I'm torn between that and
Buddies. Ooh.
Yeah. And the scene of the convention and the vid girls, the vid outfits, those were some of the oh wow, that's cool.
All right.
Sorry to say this. I have one more favorite scene.
Go for it.
The scene where at the end, our male lead drops the stun gun to pick up the regular gun and makes that choice of justice or vigilante. That moment will be with me.
Awesome.
All right, Brittany. So your turn.
I am Embry Arts, as known on pretty much most social media these days. You can catch me doing streams. I do art streams every Saturday at 8 p.m. on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. I do story streams, which is live readings of books. If you have a suggestion for either art or stories, please send them in to me. I'm happy to put them in. We are this week, in fact, going to do, I think, Scary Stories from the Internet on Thursday. That is at 7 p.m. Eastern on that. And we, of course, I also do gaming streams on right now it's at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But I also do a lot of art. I'm more known for my art. My own drama comic series, Demon Blade, is getting some popularity out there, but I have another series about to drop, and I have a couple books out there as well. 11 Kingdoms, and now Mobster X Maid Girl, which is an isekai series. Very humorous but twisted maid series. As far as my favorite scene, I'm going to be a bit twisted. I always love the first episode where their threat of the hostage is going to be killed. That, to me, stuck in my brain from the first watch and always drove me back to the series.
So just as a couple notes on my end, though my favorite parts of it really are the end, the fact that to me, the biggest twists were not the twists of the machine or anything. It was the fact that, yes, they did kill off Makishima. And yes, she does agree to just go along with Sybil. These two are, to me, the biggest twists. And they go against the grain. But in reality, I love the fact that you've got this type of dystopian future, and the goal isn't necessarily to bring it down. And I guess if you had like 1984, but the main hero was Hannibal Lecter, it probably would be a harder decision to make. It's interesting that way. But yes, check out. I did have a channel update. We have to dial back a little bit because of personal reasons. But I'm going to explain it there so y'all can check that out. That did drop today. And otherwise, I'm going to pass it on to Jake for his favorite and to tell us what we're going to be seeing at the end of, well, hopefully we're not watching at the very end of November,
Right.
but as we go.
Might be difficult during all the festivities, but anyway. My name is Kotobukijake, and I currently have a cat sleeping on my foot. But I, of course, am the co-host on Septum Sim versus the World, and also frequent Inside Movies Galore and Delusions of Grandeur. So just have fun, chatting with you guys here, and of course, enjoy games with the kill switch on occasion. And and of course, my favorite scene, again, probably if I had to pick one, would be the big confrontation between Akane and Makishima, where Yuki's life is on the line. And I don't like how that played out at the end. I don't like Yuki's fate, but the scene leading up to it was just a brilliant confrontation scene. It was one of the best, and I want to clarify, we keep calling Makishima the villain, but one reason why he's such a great villain is that you really can't fully disagree with him. He's almost in the gray zone between villain and anti-hero, and it's kind of a weird, if they had done the show from a different vantage point, I could see him being the anti-hero. But since Akane's your vantage point, and he's the villain, he's the antagonist. But it's interesting the way that was played out, and I agree with him. The way they ended it was also just pretty awesome. So for next month, I have said for some time that I do have a show that's waiting in the wings, and I really do want to put forward Elfen Lied, but I'm not going to do it this month either because, well, we can blame Dane for it. So Dane better join us next month because for his birthday, he had us watch a David Lynch film. And I have long felt that there's a particular anime that feels like if David Lynch were to make an anime, this is the anime that he would make. And I'm speaking, of course, and the reason, Roger, I had to laugh, I wasn't laughing at you, I was laughing at your timing when you mentioned
Penguin Drum.
Penguin Drum.
All right, buddies, you did it. All right. Great choice.
Kunihiko Ikuhara, who is one of the more creative and original voices in all of anime, and who does have a lot in common with David Lynch in the way he does his shows. And I really do think Penguin Drum would be the show he would have made if he made an anime. And I really love the show, and I needed an excuse to watch Volume 2 because it's unopened. I watched 1 and got Volume 2 months later, and I've never watched it. So I needed an excuse to finish watching it. But when Dane put forward a David Lynch movie, I'm like, I gotta do this one now. So I think it'll be fun. I'm going to harangue him and try to get him to join us for that.
That'll be the perfect anime thing, man. You'll chew on and chew on and chew on it. It's chewable on that.
It's good times.
It's awesome.
So, Brittany, Embryo, sorry, not light and frothy per se. But I will.
Hey, that's fine.
What's that?
She looks light and frothy.
I said that's fine. That's fine. I honestly have not seen this series, so I'm fine with checking it out.
Very good.
Well, I haven't heard of it, so
get ready for a wild ride. Right into Oz and Wonderland at the same time.
Yeah.
My only question is, where can I watch this?
It's hard to get these days because of the pricing on Sentai.
We'll send a link.
He'll probably send a link. But Susan, do you do High Dive?
Is it on High Dive?
Well, I think it is. It's a Sentai property.
Yeah.
So
High Dive does not always have Sentai though. That's or it's not always on there. That's part of the problem.
Well, he'll probably send a link.
Let me check real quick here. I'm gonna search on High Dive. Well, yeah. Let's see. Let's see if we can
So who's
search
your
it without
actually-
having to be a member.
Well, actually, Roger, I'm pretty sure you have access to Penguin Drum.
Oh yes, I have all the copies and versions of it.
Oh wow.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
All right.
Some of
Okay,
what-
Penguin
yeah.
Drum is on High Dive. All 24
Yeah. Well,
episodes.
why don't we
yes.
say good night? And for those, conversation can continue, but
Right.
broadcast.
Good
will
night,
continue.
everyone.